what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Greg Doss Show, and I'm waiting for my mic to pop open. I have no clue what's going on. There we go, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to the Greg Doss. Actually, not even Greg Doss. I'm here at Squid University. I appreciate everybody for stopping by and saying hello. I appreciate everybody who has supported the show, and we're going to probably have a pretty good show. We tend to. I actually got a little bit of a late jump. I was so busy doing so many things lately the last couple of days. I actually have to see how someone's already in the queue. The call number for the show is 347-838-8420, 347-838-8420. Now, I want to make sure I mention that today's my brother's birthday, my younger brother's birthday, and I'm so extremely proud of him. He's one of those people who overcame some things early on in life relative to what they said he could and could not learn. And I tell the story quite often because he's one of the major inspirations for me wanting to go into education. I was told that he was going to have a learning disability or what have you, and he had a slight speech impediment. But over time, he overcame the speech impediment, and now he's a professor and has been tenured for quite some time. He's been successful in the world of business, especially with real estate. He has some properties and what have you. So I want to make sure I say a happy birthday to a personal hero and inspirer of mine, my brother. And love you tremendously, little brother, and keep doing the great things that you do. And with that being said, let me go to the switchboard already. Calling number, caller 727-313. What's your name? Where you calling from? Working Squid University, a higher level of thinking. What's going on?
Hey, Greg, this is Eric. I called in from my mobile, but you can have me come in when you want me to later.
Oh no, right now is the perfect time. I usually only give them about an hour of this one, a Squid University, but since you actually run a university, a school somewhat of your own, a little bit different kind of academy, if you will, tell everybody what you do and how they can get in touch with you.
Well, my name is Eric Smith. I'm the founder of My Hangout Academy, which if we have any entrepreneurs on the line or business owners or anyone that's responsible for the financial growth of their companies, get in touch with us at myhangoutacademy.com or socialtripleplay.com. The focus of our business is to help you overcome all the minutiae and the challenges of navigating the world of social media. We love to make it very simple with our social triple play strategy by getting your business out there to when people are searching on Google, we want them to find you. And we're not talking about spending money on SEO and Google AdWords. There are so many other ways of getting found on Google that you will not believe, that most businesses don't take advantage of. And then we want to take you and put your business in front of the right targeted audience on Facebook, and that's the world's largest address book and the most accurate survey of 1.4 billion individuals. So at My Hangout Academy, we really want to help you find your customers where they're hanging out, and that's in the world of social media, and drive profits to your business.
Hey, I appreciate you, Eric. Tell everybody again how to contact you if they want to get started.
Yeah, check us out, our most recent workshop, live workshop. You can see the replay at socialtripleplay.com. That's socialtripleplay.com, or visit a preview training of our Academy workshop at myhangoutacademy.com. And my personal number, you can reach me, is at 918-994-2858. If you have questions regarding social media, would like to have a free 15-minute consultation, I'd be willing to offer those to everyone that's on this call for the university listeners.
Hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate that extension for everybody, and make sure you take advantage of that opportunity. Make sure you just mention me. I really appreciate it, and I do mean that sincerely, and from the bottom of my heart, everybody. We all have different callings in life, and something inspired you to do what you do, Eric. I have another guy online who's a tremendous worker in the world of Credit Restoration Repair. He comes on quite often and shows tremendous support, and has a different level of thinking in what he does and how he applies himself. Uh, Will, are you available out there?
Hey, what's going on? Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, absolutely. Tell everybody what you do and how they can get in touch with you. And in fact, you and Eric actually teamed up, if I'm correct and if I may say so, for your own website that they can get in touch with you on. Correct, Will?
Yeah. I'd like to plug Eric right quick if I could. Eric's really helped my business grow very affordably too, as I must say, through Facebook. I never knew that you could actually advertise for such an affordable price or rate on Facebook, and Eric showed me some tremendous ways. I mean, he did a lookalike campaign, which most people aren't familiar with, even myself. And believe me, I'm damn near 55 years old, and my generation stays away from the social media and the internet as much as possible. But Eric's brought to my attention that that's not the case, and that he did a lookalike campaign for me, and I've got 4 million. I think it's about 4 million people out there total that I have access to. If I can just capture 1% of that market, that'd be substantial. Okay, I mean a percentage of that market, 0.1% or whatever, that would be substantial. So Eric's really showed me some very strategic ways to maneuver through that, and so I want to introduce this to as many of the people that I know. So I've introduced him to Greg and others, and Eric's going to be speaking in Lakeland this month, and near the end of the month, and he's going to go to the St. Pete Business League meeting with me tomorrow as well. So we're going to get some more exposure out here because he's been just recently new in town from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So we want to take as much advantage of this guy's business opportunity as possible, because it can definitely help your business to grow. And Greg, you can even vouch for that because me and you both attended his seminar/workshop that he did a couple weeks ago. But
it came to my attention when to cut you off. Eric said even the people who were there, I'll let him, because you're still from Eric, if you want to mention what you told me today. If you don't, that's fine. But two of the people that we were at that seminar with had some recent success because of what Eric has helped them do, and I'm ready to get started myself. I'm trying not to be a procrastinator. You know me, it seems to look like this sometimes, but I think that what he offers is tremendous, and it doesn't matter who you are. And by the way, that's in Lakeland, Florida. I do have a pretty wide audience, and I would love to have more Florida listeners. And in fact, I think probably Eric will probably help me with that as well. But the bulk of my audience is everywhere from, I guess, the East Coast on the northern East Coast line all the way out to the west. But I appreciate everybody that does support Squid University, Greg Doss, the Greg Doss Show, the DJ Squid Show, as well as the Man Mindset and Man Radio 101. Everybody who's done everything, to include Steve the Dean Williams. I tell you, I could never have imagined 7 years ago that I'd have had this kind of opportunity and even this kind of success or support. So I appreciate everybody who supported me in bringing forward my story, and I'll get a little bit further into it. But go ahead and continue, Will, and tell everybody again, even how to get in touch with you and some of the things that you have going on as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have a nationwide credit restoration assistance program. So for those, Greg, you just mentioned that Northeast and all the way across to the West. Just keep me in mind because I do all 50 states, not just Florida. I'm physically located in Florida, but my services reach in all 50 states. And it's credit restoration assistance. I do a radio show at 12:50 a.m. On Saturday mornings at 8, and on Sunday mornings at 102.5 FM The Bone. Now that's going to hit primarily Florida, but we do a live stream, and we also have a TV. And Eric, you will be meeting with him within the next week or so, because I did talk to Brandon again regarding the real estate quarterback show. So, but people should keep me in mind. I've got a great program with the credit restoration, because we've added immensely to just what they call credit repair. So I like to say that my program is credit repair on steroids. We have credit restoration where we really explain to you the inner workings operating procedures of the credit reporting agencies and what they're doing to violate your rights. And most people don't know that. But 100% of the information on your credit report has been put there in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. But of course, most people just come to me to have the negative information removed. And one of the most popular questions is, this belongs to me, how can you get it removed? The reason being is because we're not going after the lender that you opened the contract with, we're going after the credit reporting agencies themselves. And they have violated the Fair Credit Reporting Act because they have not followed the proper steps in applying this information to your credit report. A simple question to ask yourself is, have you ever been contacted by a credit reporting agency? And for those of you who say yes, it's not the credit reporting agencies that contacted you, it's the collectors. Credit reporting agencies never abide by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, so they have not contacted you to verify whether the information was true and accurate or not. It does not mean it's true and accurate because it's been submitted to them by the lender. Only when they properly verified with you according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act is what makes that or validates that entry. So we can go through and have a lot of this information uplifted or removed from the credit report. And I like to reiterate, most of the time I'm only going to get about 60 to 80%, people. And the reason why I can't get 100% is because the credit reporting agencies are investigating themselves. Nevertheless, our program is relentless, and we're going to go after these credit reporting agencies. We're going to get about 60 to 80%, which is substantial. Do I do 100%? A lot of times I do, but I don't want to tell people that. Now, in addition to that, what I mentioned earlier about people that's calling you, those are the collectors that are calling you. It's not the credit reporting agencies. And collectors are operating illegally as well, and they're violating aspects of the Uniform Commercial Code and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So what we do with collectors is we encourage people not to pay the collector, but more importantly, not to ignore the collector. We want you to have communication with that collector because we're going to shut them down through a legal process called the validation of debt. So communicate with those collectors. Just tell them to send it to you in writing. You'll be more than happy to settle this matter, and we'll issue a validation of debt to the collector. We also have Federal Trade Commission follow-up letter and cease and desist. Our prices are extremely affordable. You'll pay anywhere from $350 to $650. If you're on Greg's show and you call me and you tell me that you're coming from Greg's show, then I'll charge you anywhere from $350 to $450 for the entire service, 12 months. Okay, so please let me know. You can reach me at 727-798-3092. That's 727-798-3092. My website is badcredithistoryrepaired.com. That's badcredithistoryrepaired.com, and it's a mobile-ready website. And more importantly, go to Facebook, my business page that Eric Smith set up for me back in April. And Eric, I'm telling you, I can't say enough about Eric's information that he shared with me about the opportunity that I have with this Facebook page. But please go visit my Facebook page. It's Bad Credit History Repaired. That's past tense. I'm sorry, just Bad Credit History Repaired. And like the page, okay? Because Eric's got a campaign going for me that's going to give me the ability to reach 4.8 million people. If I don't capture them all, that's fine. If I can get 1%, like I said, that'll be great. And want to get Greg's going to be working with you too, because we're going to take this phenomenal program that Greg has with the child support and really help people to understand what's going on with child support and your rights as it pertains to that as well. So Greg and Eric are going to be working together. They already are. So keep your eyes open for Greg's Facebook page as well. Thank you, Greg.
I appreciate it. And Will, would you suggest I give everybody a copy of this Fair Debt Collection Practices Act as well? And if they want one, just get them one. Would you suggest that I give everybody?
Greg, you broke up. Say it again, Greg.
I said, would you suggest that I make available to everybody who wants it? If you don't know that, look up yourself a copy of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. If you need a copy, just contact me at gregdoss@gregdoss.com. I'll get one out to you, and I'll make sure I get you Will and Eric's contact information as well.
Well, Greg, now also they can go to ftc.gov to save you some time if possible, and just get a copy of both the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So ftc.gov, that's the Federal Trade Commission website, and please go there and read the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And I would like to strongly encourage that people take a look at the Uniform Commercial Code, specifically the negotiable instrument section, so you can see how debt really works and understand more importantly how I'm dealing with the issuance of a validation of debt for the collectors. And Greg, let me just
please hang on to Will, because we're going to get into some of the UCC stuff here tonight at the start, but it's about the application of knowledge is what the show is mainly about. We're probably going to give you a little bit more time than we had before for the people. I'm going to probably be on for a little bit more than an hour. Normally it is an hour, but I'm going to start going into the UCC as I begin, a little while back, thanks to Will in part, because at one time I knew about the UCC, not to the depth that this gentleman, William, knows about it and has had experience. I believe even he has had experience as well. But everybody who wants to know, and I will be doing thorough reading to give everybody an understanding of how it is read. As far as application of the negotiable instrument section, I'll probably turn that over to some of the other people who I know who have said that they've had more experience with it than I, and we'll see where it goes from there. But continue, Will and Eric.
Okay. And just, I want people to, I'm sorry, Eric, go ahead. You had something, Eric?
Yeah, I wanted just to say a couple quick things to your audience. First and foremost, look forward to a online web show right on Facebook from the Greg Doss. You're going to be seeing that coming up soon. But next Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, go like the page, Bad Credit History Repaired on Facebook, as Will just told you. Go like that page and look for an invite on that page to an event next Thursday, 9 o'clock p.m., where William is going to break down the 4 steps to help you improve your credit. And he's going to be teaching the system in more detail that he just talked about tonight. You do not want to miss that. That's going to be a live web show that you'll be able to watch right on your cell phone or your tablet, right from your Facebook page. You'll be able to ask questions, get answers, and be able to sign up. You can sign up tonight also, but I'm just saying you definitely want to check that out next week. That's going to be next Thursday. So,
9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that is, because we got people in the country from even California on, so we got to reiterate 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That is correct.
I have forgotten about that, so I'll just go over everything else on that show on next Thursday.
Well, what's interesting about that is that'll be leading up to this show, and if there's any way, I guess, intermingle the 2 shows, I'd be more than willing to give an additional hour. I definitely look forward to having Will participate in a much greater capacity, because despite that we know him for his credit repair and restoration on steroids, he's an absolutely great source of general information in history and other aspects that people can you would really find interesting and applicable to our day-to-day existence. So I'm looking very forward to it, and thanks a lot, Will, for all you do on air and off air for me.
And thank you, Greg, for this forum as well.
I appreciate it. So what's kind of interesting is for tonight's show, and I appreciate you 2 gentlemen and I hope you both will hang on, is we're going to hear about about practical application of information and knowledge, and actually you're going to hear a lead up to, for those who follow me on Tuesdays and on Tuesdays, whether I'm Greg or DJ Squid, but more specifically Greg, you hear the professor who comes from the PMBR, and that's how I knew that the UCC had actual effect, because there's a portion for the UCC on the bar exam. And you're going to hear a snippet of it. It's a very long lecture. We're not going to play it here. But you have about 12 minutes of information regarding the laws that affect you day to day. UCC in particular, I'm going to go and get, I guess, really heavily into learning a lot more about the Uniform Commercial Code. Most people know that most of my experience, as I showed you all within my show, has come from inside the courtroom venue, or actually inside the venue, not the courtroom, inside the venue. Some call it a courtroom, but we'll get into that a little later. But what you want to do is be able to do as much as possible with accurate paperwork. And I know you've had some experience with this, Will, but I think that this method, and it's valid, there's no doubt, is the more practical way to deal with things in general. Hopefully, we'll give you another show on how the monetary system really works. But I think this would be a pretty decent introduction. Sit back, anybody who receives the link, who's still, there's quite a few in here, send it out to everybody else. And I think, Will, you may enjoy this clip especially. Do you have anything to say before I get it? It's about 12 minutes. So if you want to throw it out there, Will, anything you want to add that I may not have covered in detail, as my knowledge is beginning to increase in this subject area?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think it's very extremely important that people listen to this information, because this is an alternative, our second look at what we call the monetary system in this country. There's a lot of things that we haven't been told, but more importantly, there's a lot of things that we haven't got up off our lazy butts and went and tried to study ourselves to find this information out. The information is readily available if we just look for it. So, yes, they suppress this information. They don't want to keep it from us, but the information is readily available, and it's extremely valuable once we open these texts and start to have some dialogue on these subjects. We need more participation from it. Me and Greg have been going back and forth, and I'm telling Greg, yes, I have extensive experience in using the UCC, but Greg has extensive experience in the courtroom. And what we found is that a lot of us end up in the courtroom when we utilize these negotiable instruments of the Uniform Commercial Code and these procedures, and then we're kind of dumbfounded and even scared. But Greg has his tenacity and experience in that courtroom can help us to make this picture complete, so we can start to utilize and exercise these instruments to full potential.
And as always, I tell people, listen, I'm not an attorney, don't have a license to practice law, and do not practice the law. What I do is study the law and tell people what I've learned and how to gather the information. I don't give the information as advice to apply to specific cases, but it's general information regarding this law, which, by the way, does belong to the people. So I hope you use the information for educational purposes only. And I say that because I want nothing that I say to be construed to be legal advice. If you think you need legal advice, I highly encourage you to hire a licensed and competent attorney, and there are some that exist in this area, and be legally advised. And with that being said, sit back, Will. I really want your intake on that, and you have a whole lot more study material coming to you, Will. I want you to really take some time. I know you're very busy. Give me about 3 hours to break down what I'm going to give you relative to this, to help us all have a better understanding of some of this information, but especially as the professor breaks down. And this is actually in the form of contract law.
You see, there are two kinds of law. This is a subject I love. I've been talking about this for years. There are two kinds of law on the earth that rule the whole world, but most people don't know that. All over the world, all governments are ruled by what is called civil law. Civil law goes back to a Latin word, civili, which goes back to the word illy. Oh, God, I mean, we could go on for hours on this stuff. Civil law, which is called, in all countries, the law of the land. So you'll say, well, you can't do that because that's against the law of the land. The law of the land is civil law, Roman civil law, the law of the land. But there is a second law which also operates all over the earth identical. It's called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. That is the law of God in the world of business. I don't care if you're in Japan, in Africa, in China, in Istanbul, Turkey. If you have a company, if you have a corporation, if you are doing business where you buy and sell and make money, you are operating on this earth under something called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. Because if all countries worked on a different commercial code, then nobody could do business with anybody. You couldn't trust Japan to pay you. Japan couldn't trust America to pay them for the cars, because everybody has their own laws. Under the Caesars of Rome, they established under Caesar that all nations in the empire that do business, everybody plays on a level field. If you do business in Africa with China, you pay them. And if Africa does business with American companies, you pay them. You pay. Whatever it is you're doing business, you don't mess around The most severe law in this world is called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. It's the Bible of business on the earth. Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code is based directly on Vatican canon law, on the Roman canon law. Consequently, when a ship pulls into port, it pulls in and stops, and it's called in its berth. The ship is now in its berth. Because it is on the law of the high seas, or commercial maritime, UCC commercial law rules the seas. So when the ship pulls into its berth, the first thing the captain must do is to present a certificate of manifest to the port authorities, which means that the port authorities need to know how much is on this ship that you're bringing into our country and our economy. How many TVs, how many cars, whatever you're bringing, how much are you bringing into our economy? So you have to have a certificate of manifest of what is the value of your ship here. What are you doing? Consequently, when you are born, you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate, a certificate of manifest, because you are a corporation-owned item. You are a human resource. This goes back to the German Nazi concept that every human coming out of their mother's water must be birthed. And therefore, you have to have a certificate, a manifest, to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order. I'm telling you that until you understand the laws, the symbols, the emblems, what these words mean, you're never going to suspect how far gone we really are. Did you know, for instance, that your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange in the New York stock market? Did you know that? Because if you order your birth certificate, get a new one, order your birth certificate, it'll only cost you, sometimes it's free, it'll only cost you a few dollars. Order your birth certificate. On your birth certificate, all birth certificates in this country, on the bottom, it will tell you this is printed on security papers. Do not accept it not on full color security paper. Then on the right-hand corner, you will always have a series of numbers, red numbers, printed on the birth certificate. Those numbers are a security stock exchange number on the World Stock Exchange. You go to any good stock office and ask them, check these numbers in your computer and see how much this stock is worth, the certificate. And they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange and find your birth certificate is a stock on the stock exchange in America. Why? Because you are worth money to the international bank that bought you in 1930. We need to wake up. This is serious stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, there had to come a point when we reached the sixth issue, and we reached it. We are facing now in the fact pattern a breach, a garden variety breach of contract. Nothing dramatic like anticipatory repudiation or voluntary disablement. Nothing new and fancy such as a failure to give adequate assurances of performance in the face of a timely and reasonable demand. Simply the idea that a party to a contract who had a fully matured obligation has either failed to perform, has refused to perform, or has defectively performed. Now, in the face of breach, there are two critical things that I suggest be the components of your approach. And the first is where people are losing points all over the bar exam. Faced with a breach of the contract, I want you to first canvass in your mind what is the impact of that breach upon the affirmative duties of the aggrieved party. The second is the point that we're all rushing to get to, and that is the discussion of remedies. But let's take the approach one step at a time. Before you can work with either of these topics, the affirmative obligations of the aggrieved parties or the remedial rights that accrue to the aggrieved party, you must first do a very, very major analysis with respect to the breach as either being material, going to the very essence of the expectation of the aggrieved party, or being merely minor.
Work hard at work and at home. Here's one I discovered. You can work hard and go broke. Hard work's not going to get it. Smart work. Those who have the knowledge have the power, right or wrong. Now, knowledge does not guarantee success, but the application of it greatly enhances the probability of success. Let me show you how that works. Could I assume that most of you men are romanticists? Stretch your minds today. The answer is yes. Could I assume that on many occasions you men will buy your wives, significant others, flowers? Yes. If you men are going to buy a dozen roses, birthday, anniversary, Valentine's Day, which color rose would you buy? But here are your choices: red, white, yellow, pink, peach. Quick survey. You men are buying a dozen roses. How many of you men would buy red? May I see your hands up high? Well, that's almost everyone. Who would buy white? I don't see any. Are there any? Are you in or out? Don't go to any auctions out there. You're going to get, okay, I think 2. Who would buy pink? 3. Yellow. 13, 14. Peach. 5. You women are married to a thoughtful romanticist. He says, love, I'm going down the floors to buy you a dozen roses. Which color rose would you like for me to buy? How many of you women would say, love, be sure and buy me red roses? May I see your hands up high? Gentlemen, look around. Probably no more than 5 or 6. Who would say, love, I would like yellow roses? Up high. Wow. Pink. White. Peach. Ooh, my soul. What does this little survey say to you? No, it basically says men are stupid. Because in 87% of the cases, men buy red roses, 87%. But of those 5 colors, women prefer red, dead last, 16%. Knowledge is power. You men come home with a dozen red roses you bought for yourself again. You give them to your wife. What do you expect her to do? Fall down on the floor, kiss your feet. See, you women are standing there thinking, when will the bozo ever guess it right? Knowledge is power. Confess. How many of you men have never asked your wife which color rose she prefers? Confess. Why have you not done that? You have violated a cardinal rule in selling called qualifying the buyer. How many of you women have never told your husbands which color you prefer? Y'all confess. Why have you not done that? Has that kept you from having an opinion on other issues? No, see, you women are very bad about playing a game called I've Got a Secret. And if you just love me enough or develop ESP, you might just guess my secret.
What can you see, Neil?
It's strange. The code is somehow different.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
Is that good for us or bad for us?
If he's an example,
I ain't impressed.
He scales the mountain because he's not afraid of it. I think you just figured out a way you can be useful. Finally found me, huh, big dog? What took you so long?
You can't treat him like any of the other niggas around here, because he ain't like any of the other niggas around here. You got it?
What can you see, Leo? It's strange. The code is somehow different.
Encrypted?
Maybe.
Hey, welcome to Squid University, and of course, I guess I call myself Professor Squid. But it's time for us to move to the next level of thinking. And one of the things you got from the multitude of clips, one, what really goes on. Two, the importance of knowing what you want to know. And then, of course, three, the ability to ask questions to gain clarity or to move yourself into the proper direction. You see, the question for the show was actually, can one really know if the one cannot apply or prove this body of knowledge? And we have another segment coming in a little while, but Mr. Crowley, you still there? Crowley, you still there? Will, let's hope he didn't drop.
Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah, I have my phone muted out. I'm here.
Okay. Now, let's talk about an application of knowledge. When I ask you about general questions, especially, most of our conversations deal with banking, and there's some other historical questions, but relative to application of knowledge. And you spoke earlier today about what your credit restoration program does, and throughout some time you learned this and how these things work and how to help people with this credit. But do you think you would be successful if you couldn't prove that you said you could do what you say you could do?
I wouldn't be successful at all. And there's a lot of people out there that do that too, that they can't prove what they say, but yet still they're saying it. And that's why I pride myself on that. I'm able to show people examples and get testimonies from people that have been through my service. But
and what's also interesting about that, I'm glad you said that, because interestingly enough, the bad news about something would travel probably faster than the good news travels in that area when it comes to your credit repair. But I wonder if the people who speak to you can appreciate your knowledge. And if anybody's on here, and I know that I see at least one person in the queue who's actually utilized your services. I don't know if they're here to talk about, they're just listening in general for the numbers I actually recognize. But you speak, I know you sit down, because I've actually watched you work with someone before, and when they get back information or feedback, because I don't know how many steps are in the process, you sit down with them and you explain to them exactly what it is that they're looking at relative to the service that you provide, correct?
Yes, right. Uh-huh.
And by the way, continue, just tell them what you do whenever it comes back, just to give people a general idea, because I want to get to this whole thing about applying and proving knowledge on a subject matter.
Okay. So when you're saying when I receive the information back from the client once they send it to the credit agency?
Yeah. So just explain briefly what you do.
Right. And one thing based on from what I explained earlier, we try to give people a real view of it. I want to tell people 100%, but I can't get 100%. Most of the time it's about 60, 80%, but I can, if we're persistent enough, we'll be able to get 100%, but most cases people have to understand it's only going to be 60, 80%, and because of what I explained earlier. Nevertheless, we produce all the documentation for our clients. Then we send it to them to forward to the credit reporting agency, and we encourage them to keep copies of what we have, the paperwork that we are sending them. Keep copies for yourself so you can track us as well as we're tracking you. In other words, a lot of companies use the same dispute over and over again. We don't do that. Okay, and just to prove to you that we don't, the paperwork that my office sends to you is going to show you on each cycle that it's going to be a different set of disputes. When we receive the information back from when you receive the information back from the credit reporting agency, then in turn you will forward it to us. That'll be Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now just cut me off when I've answered your question, Greg. But when we receive this information back, it's going to give us what they call the investigation results. With those investigation results, that's going to give us the ammunition to move forward with our second cycle, our third, fourth, and fifth cycles as well. And what we're looking for is if the information has been deleted or updated from a negative to a positive, we can set that aside and continue to go after the negative information that remains. So, but the most important aspect of our credit restoration, what makes us unique from other companies, makes us unique from every other company, is that you're right there alongside seeing the process, okay? And we're teaching the process to you as well. We're teaching you how the credit reporting agencies work and how conniving they can be. But yet, nevertheless, even if they're conniving, we're persistent with our procedure as well. Just like Greg is in them courtrooms when he's dealing with this child support, we're just as persistent with the credit reporting agencies. Regardless of what they say, we know what our overall goal is, and that is to get these people to play the rules of the game where it's going to be advantageous for us. So we're going to continue this dispute process for 12 months, and you're going to see everything that we do because you're going to receive the information and send it to the credit reporting agency and make copies for yourself. That goes both ways, too. When the credit reporting agency responds back to you, you're going to make copies of the information before you send it back to us as well. So you're going to be able to see what's going on both sides.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we now briefly touch on, and we have about 17 minutes left in the stream because, again, I generally do about an hour of higher level thinking. But I want you to touch into this issue, the matter, your information about the UCC. Was it and has it been beneficial with what you do now?
Yes, it's been extremely beneficial because I understood history, but I didn't understand the monetary connection to it. And I didn't understand understand the Uniform Commercial Code. And I want to reiterate one thing right now, that Uniform Commercial Code, sometimes known as, I think it's Harambe's Code, that's Greek, I believe. But all of these codes and this monetary system came out of something a place that preceded Romans, and the Persians, and that is this place called Africa. No matter what you want to call it, this is where these strategic sources of monetary instrumentation, I guess you would say, evolved from. It wasn't the Greeks and the Romans and the Persians, okay? They learned everything from the ancient Egyptians. Unfortunately, we don't have as much of that information readily available, but you can check some of the sources, such as Shekhan Tajop, John Henry Clark, John G. Jackson, and Dr. Ben. These people can give you some information as it pertains to the UCC evolution coming from ancient Africa and then moving forward to Egypt, to Greece, Rome, and Persia, etc., and the rest of the world. I just wanted to say that in talking about this Uniform Commercial Code. But when I'm sure I used to teach classes on it, okay? But what I found is that I was too definitive. I gave them too much information. I don't want to give people a ton of information on the UCC anymore. I want people to go study it for themselves. What I can share with you more extensively is my experiences when I implemented and utilized these negotiable instruments, okay? That's where the real experience comes from. Theory is one thing, but practical application is so much more intense. You can learn a lot more through practical application, even if you're doing it wrong, okay? But most of us, once you read the Uniform Commercial Code, you can get these entities out there to work with you and assist you in moving forward. So if you don't have all your I's dotted or your T's crossed, don't fret, don't worry, because there are convenient agencies out there and individuals that will definitely walk you along the way. But you don't want to be as hostile because you're trying to get these people to work with you when you're issuing these type of instruments according to the Uniform Commercial Code. I think the most important part of the Uniform Commercial Code is the negotiable instrument section. That will blow people's minds as it pertains for the rules of commerce. I believe, we have been playing the game completely wrong. That's why we're at the disadvantage that we're in right now, and we put ourselves there. Well, I never want to get into the position of pointing the finger saying they. It's us. We are the ones that are not getting off of our, I don't know, getting off of our asses or butt and starting to study this information and applying it. So when you hear me talking about the Uniform Commercial Code, I'm not going to give you a ton of information because my thing is I've had my experiences for the last, I started dealing with the Uniform Commercial Code in 2001, 2002. And I had some extreme experiences and retaliation from what I was doing. Now, some people say, well, that's because you were doing it wrong. Nah, that's not really the case, because I was dealing with some very key, very knowledgeable, very talented people in this process. But what I do know is that there's a system in place that doesn't want us to know and to implement these type of procedures. But I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm only saying that to raise your awareness and your cautious approach when you start to do this. We need to do this because once it's done, we will find that we can make this system a better system. Either we can make it a better system or we can destroy it and create a new one. Now, it'll be much easier just to make this Uniform Commercial Code work for us. And I believe with Greg's expertise in the courtroom, I mean, when I say expertise, I mean his tenacity, his fearlessness in his courtroom can help us to implement these procedures more effectively. Because I did back down. I got scared to death at a juncture when I was facing 50 years in prison for doing this. And don't play all like you, those who are on this call, don't pretend like you're all bold, because you would probably be just as scared as I was. But in dialoguing and discussing this with Greg, I see that Greg can help us when we're going to go into the courts, because you definitely are going to be going into the courts when you're doing this, okay? They're going to call you in. And you better be ready to deal with them from that perspective. Back then, our whole objective was to stay out of the courts, not to create any type of dishonor by arguing with them, and whatever we were accused of, to accept it, discharge it, and move on. But unfortunately, the courts won't work with you under those. Most of the time, they won't work with you under that procedure. So if you find yourself in court, then we can best be rest assured that Greg, I really strongly believe, can be able to help us to overcome some of the procedures and objections that they may have. But I don't want to dominate this conversation. I mean, so let me stop there, and maybe we can entertain some questions or some other statements or whatever.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you, because I don't know how long this is going to last, but just rest assured that based upon at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, the show will jump back up if we end up getting cut off, because I don't know how much of the discussion we're going to get into. So if the show drops down, come back in, dial into the same number, because I know for many people they're probably a little bit surprised. I don't know if I really wanted them to know that much, Will, that I had even taken on this level of study.
Okay.
But what I wanted to make people, no, I'm not worried about that part, because I think that when you have the next level of thinking, and what you heard the gentleman say today is knowledge is the power. Once you know, they can't make you unknow. They can make you theoretically not be, but that's only a state of quote unquote mind as well. And what I want people to know is there's actually remedy within the UCC, and in fact, the snippet that you heard from the second professor, with those who know me, I play the professor regularly on the Greg Doss show. That was the UCC portion of that bar review, and it was a different professor who spoke about it because it's contract law. Another thing you heard about was obligation and a duty to perform a particular obligation. I have Brother Jamian who hosts a very good show, a great show, every Sunday, and he touches on a wide range of subject matter. But as we go into the second part of this of our show, and Brother Jami, you're here and open, we're going to talk about people and our knowledge. And I know this. I don't want this to seem to be a religious show, so to speak, but I think everybody needs to have the right and the proper spiritual compass in order to overcome whatever is put on in front of you within this realm. Now, Brother Jami, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. What's going on?
I appreciate you for stopping by. And, I joke with Will and a lot of the other people all the time and say I don't recall the Bible saying my people perish for a lack of paperwork. It's if you go to Hosea 4 and 6, it says my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because you've rejected knowledge, I will also reject you from being my priest. And see, in that sense, you've forgotten the law of your God, and don't forget that Psalms 82 and 6, you are that God, I've also will forget your children. And as I began to understand a lot more about the UCC and when it was set up, and even the monetary systems as they were established, Will, if a person who understands the greatness of the sciences, and I have some of my engineer people I see popping in some of those numbers, and I enjoy dialoguing with people who are much more intelligent than me, and I'm going to tell you, if I'm the smartest person you know, you're probably not in a good place. So that's why I enjoy speaking with Eric in the areas that he's versed in, Will, in the areas he's versed in, my personal priest, if I can be so selfish as to call him that, Brother Jami, and the many other people who I try to come in contact with throughout this journey, because I don't want to limit myself to what they call a day or what has been defined as a day within the journey of my existence within this physical body. I always want to reach the people and get in touch with people who know and can share something that allows me to grow, because as the energy just transitions, it transitions right back here. So when people have an understanding of the sciences and how things really work, they're not setting it up just so that they can live well today. They're setting it up with an idea that they'll come back and live even greater with it generations to come. Brother Jami?
Yeah. What you was asking me to speak to, bro?
This information of what knowledge really entails. And even we're going to get into applying the knowledge for what it entails, and when somebody wants to, quote-unquote, teach about a body of knowledge. And it doesn't have to be limited just to this particular subject matter, because I was speaking to you earlier, and we got on that Ezekiel 44 and 23, where it says they are to teach my people the difference between the holy and the common, and show them how to distinguish between the unclean and the clean. Now, we dealt with some issue, or I've been dealing with something for the last couple of days relative to that. And when Will said he likes to show people what he does for them, when I first came into doing this, I always said, I would think that everybody would ask for some demonstration of proof. And I think because not enough people have done what Will has done, and that's why I really appreciate Will. Will, the first thing Will told me is, don't think they're not coming. And because of my background with the military, hey, Will, you didn't have to convince me of that part. And I tell people that I try to help you build a defense. See, if you know what you're doing, your defense is already built in.
Yeah.
True.
Yep, that makes sense. It makes sense. Yep. And can I say something right quick, Greg?
If he wills to enforce it, yes. And then after he finishes, Johnny, you can go in.
Yeah. Let me reiterate, and for those who were involved in the back at the time when I was involved in over 10, 15, 16 years ago, the whole objective at that time was to stay out of the court. Like I said earlier, to stay out of the courts. So in following that objective, we didn't have a plan. Primarily, we didn't have a plan for going into the courts, because our whole objective was to stay out of the courts. And we would just say, well, listen, our paperwork will precede us, and then we'll discharge the debt, because it's all about money when you go into those damn courtrooms. What is the cost of this crime? Great, I accept it. I accept full responsibility. Now discharge it. according to House Joint Resolution 192, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when we found ourselves being constantly brought into the courts and into that venue, we didn't know, a lot of times we didn't know what the hell to do. I mean, I didn't get the 50 years, but I stumbled through it. Okay, if I had known if I had been able to approach it from the perspective of with Greg's tenacity, then I think that I wouldn't even have had to settle for $450 fine and 18 months probation. I'll talk at some juncture more extensively about that, but I'm just kind of paraphrasing right now. But I had it reduced, but I was dumbfounded because then what the hell? They brought me into court. They can't do that. I discharged the debt. So I'm sharing this with people now, not to discourage you, like I said before, but just to be aware of, okay, they're coming. Don't think they're not coming, but now we have a way to really go in there and defend ourselves, if I'm saying it correctly, Greg, because like I said, I'm not familiar with the court phrases like you are, but we definitely have got to be prepared to go in that court and deal with them from an articulate perspective.
And I wouldn't diminish it, and we have about 3 minutes left in the live stream. Again, hopefully it'll give us at least 30 minutes worth of the out time. I would probably drop it 11:25 our time on the East Coast. So people, please call right back in, and because I wanted to include these gentlemen, particularly Brother Will and Jami, and the other people who are calling in 347-838-8420 will be the same number, 347-838-8420. You'll pop back in, and you can ask any questions or add any input based upon your personal experiences, hopefully, or what you think or what you may know. But I will tell people, when I heard the statement one night at Black on Black Rhyme, which I was a sponsor in spoken word and poetry, you don't have to pay taxes, and this is going to be another topic altogether. And I can show you. It was the I can show you. See, show is verification. It's proof. Just like when it comes to teaching. But what happened was I heard it, but all at the same time, and Brother Jami, you can help me more, there was a kindling within my spirit. So it went beyond just what I knew from what I learned through the halls of academia or those corridors of academia, and within some sort of construct of a curriculum within the education system. Something else began to move within me. And that's where I would get what Will was calling the tenacity. When I began to get closer to what I knew was the spiritual awakening or reckoning, and it doesn't matter what your body of quote-unquote belief is, it was what I began to know. And that's when I began to see the success. And I know that they probably would hate me saying that. And, I do live and recognize that to continue to do what I do, there could be consequences. But, if I'm afraid to live, then, I might as well be afraid to die. And neither one of those things are true. But, Brother Jami, when we talk about the necessity for a strong spiritual foundation, help the people understand the depths of the work it even takes to recognize what's going on with them.
I guess speaking to what y'all been, speaking about with can one really know if the one cannot apply or prove the knowledge? I guess the knowing, it starts with oneself first, and knowing yourself and your awareness of self, and then oneself in connection of the Creator or God. People use Jesus, Holy Spirit, or whatever one chooses in regards to their higher power, higher sense of their connection. Having that connection with that first is very important in doing things, because with the one and the application of things, so it's kind of like what Ikema does with credit. What you're doing when you going into the courtrooms yourself, without knowing certain things already and proving and testing and trying them, then you wouldn't be able to bring forth the application of it, because there's nothing that you would have been able. It's kind of like you just be stepping out there in blind faith, in a sense, with no assurance that it's going to work. So it's kind of like a guess, but it's a difference that I would say that you'll have a strong foundation underneath you when you step forward in a knowing of something and tested it and it's worked. So you have the proof that it moves forward. Like someone say, the proof is in the pudding. It said that came up today in the conversation that I was in. So in testing, if the proof is in the pudding, then I think a lot of people, I hear so much theory, and a lot of excitement and theory is put into things. And so, some of that with excitement and passion and expression, it's attractive, and it actually sells itself. But I think each individual has to have a compass within themselves to sharp enough to ask the question, no matter who it is, no matter how good it sounds. And I think a lot of us get caught up in the emotionalism or caught up in the moment of that, how it made you feel or what it speaks to, especially when you're new people coming forward and you don't know the foundations or principles that's laid for these building blocks of this information. It's all new to you. So you don't know that the person that's standing before you is an actual scholar, a professor from some predominant college, or whether this is just somebody straight off the streets that done learned some stuff, just watched a couple videos and your YouTube and just can speak good or eloquently or whatever, and just trying to sell you on a great salesman or marketer. So a lot of times we don't really be knowing the credentials of the people that step before us on these platforms. So, and sometimes it's easy to get caught up, you know. If someone can call you and sell you something, if you ain't sharp enough to answer questions that it sounds really too good to be true, then a lot of times it is too good, instead of putting these things to test, because it does say test and try everything to see if it's of the creator. Let's see if the proof is in the pudding. So by asking those questions, who, what, when, where, and why, how, and if they have even proof themselves of documentation. So most of the time if somebody done something, then they should have a blueprint that they can lay out before you to show you that step by step, this is how I was successful, this is how I gained it. And matter of fact, a good teacher, a good mentor, if it's about you or about the people, then this is what you're going to come with anyways, because it's like each one teach one in that sense. So you're going to want the people to learn, because you're going to understand that, all right, we got future generations coming. We got children coming behind us. And if we can, if the parents are teachable, and if you can teach them a certain mindset, then they'll turn around and they'll give it to the kids. And we teach the men and we teach the women. So these things are important, that we getting the right information and instructions out here. So I think it's a great war going on, and a great divider and separator within that context. And so we have to have more teachers that will come forward and teach us the skills, and not so much us focus on those that aren't doing it right and those that are doing it right, but the ones that are doing it right, if they'll focus more on the people that need to be helped. Because it seems like the ones that maybe don't got it right and it's selling a lot of the theory, they get more of the crowd of the people that go to them first. And then by the time they get to the person that's really got the information, that's really doing the application of it, thousands of dollars have been wasted. They done been scammed. And you know, and they just done been tripped, manipulated, taken advantage of, and they upset and probably ready to give up and just with no hope no more. You know, so I think that those that do have the application, that's been tested and proven, and so in all honesty, if I walk through that fire, then I have no issue in the beginning. Those people are going to come directly with you with the documentation. They're going to show you. If a person ain't coming out in the front doing all that and they just talking in theory, then you might want to step back and really start asking the right questions, because my crossing paths with Greg Doss is what allowed me to be comfortable with that, because he was showing and proving. He just wasn't talking about it. He was showing. He had the documentation. He had the recordings, you know, and then not only just old stuff from back 2000 or whatever, we're in 2015, so recent things in life, you're going to continue to have different stuff that's going to come up, so you should have continued success. And so he continued to show those new results and those old. And I think those are the people that we want to have before.
You know, I was speaking about it, you know, and you know, I go back to Will, and when he first sat down and started telling me this, and by the way, Will gave me, you know, I don't know, 1,000 or so books, on a variety of subjects, because he allowed me to pick the ones that I wanted from what he had as duplicates, and he said he had even a larger library. But he's aware, and he gives books to pick out, and you know, as well as Brother John Me, and even while I was associated with high frequency, quite a few books came my way. But the more I began to read, the more I began to kind of absorb the information. And as I thought about and I would engage with Will, the one thing he kept pressing to me is, I know what you do is fine, but let's get into something. When you start getting into something else, see how they react. And I would like to get in there, but as fearless or as tenacious as I may be, I wouldn't want to be careless nor reckless. And even if I'm willing to try something, I'm not going to send somebody out who I don't think is ready. Because as a coach, I can't just throw you out there knowing that, man, you can get your doors blown if you get out there. Because there are too many other things that can come at you, and I have to know are you prepared. And I do recognize that if you're not prepared and a battle comes to you, you're going to really face some of your greatest tests, not only from the person or the entity before you, whether it's the quote-unquote government, any of these other things. It's going to be from the people who you actually would want to support you in your time of need, or your time of quote unquote desperation, or what have you. And that what is very important. And there may be an appearance of, I would call, rejection or failure to what you may be doing, and people will pay more attention to that than they will to the fact that you're willing to fight. And sometimes these journeys, and I'm sure you probably learned this too, Will, are very solemn and lonely journeys. The people that you would think would be there to support you and say, look, I got you, even to the extent that, I'm going to be there to support you, we'll find that a lot of people tend to disappear, huh, Will?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They definitely disappeared. And as a matter of fact, I started my own group later, a couple years later in 2009, where I was carrying about 40 to 60 people here in Tampa, Florida, at a meeting every Wednesday night. And the majority of that crowd was like to remind you, about 40 to 60 people in my meeting every Wednesday night. We were having a variety of discussions, from non-payment of taxes to maritime liens to UCC, adverse possession, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I only had about 5 black people in it. I know some people, don't like the word black, but African, whatever whatever you want to call it. I had 5 of those people in there, and the rest was predominantly other races. So that was interesting as well. So the people that started out with me were all black, but then all of them ran. Mostly all of them ran, unfortunately.
And I think people, and I guess it has less, I'm hoping it has less to do with the pigmentation of one's shell than it does with the tenacity or the depth of one's heart. And I say heart in the standpoint of whether you care about your brother, or whether or not you just, heart also what makes a guy run slants versus just wanting to run extension kind of routes. And this is one of the things that I know has shown itself a lot lately with a lot of people. 347-838-8420, 347-838-8420. We have about 20 minutes before, actually not even 20 minutes, about 15 minutes before I flip it back, before I shut it down and bring it back up for the part 2 of It's Time to Move On to the Next Level of Thinking. Well, we're going to continue our conversation, and I appreciate you for staying up so late and working with us on this, Will. I know you're busy every day. As we get into a little more discussion of the monetary system, as well as Brother John Meade's going to have a segment on Let's Talking About It, and I'm going to warn him, and as a precursor, if you don't know, because I didn't put it up, he's going to break down this. We talked about this Isaiah 5 and 13, and I know I'm referencing the Bible because it's the book that I'm just most familiar with when it comes to the spiritual aspect of it. I don't look at it from a religious standpoint or the realignment of thinking. But we were talking today, Brother Jamie, and I said, I read this thing in Isaiah when it spoke to, therefore my people will go into exile for lack of understanding. those of high rank will die of hunger, and the common people will be parched with thirst. And I was so taken aback by what was actually going on, or what I was actually reading. You were saying, you remember I sent you this, and I sent you these other insights, spiritual insights. And again, there's like a jolt of energy that goes through me. And I say things, and I do firmly live with the mindset that things happen for reasons. Will running across my path was for a reason. You and I meeting was for a reason. Meeting Brother Sharif, Brother True, the people at High Frequency was for a reason. And it was to increase my awareness of what is actually going on. My journey was based upon what was going on with me and my son. And I think that Shadi came in last night and spoke to it. If it hadn't been for what I had experienced going through a divorce and having what I thought was the system, or have you taken my son, and I used to be so angry with the system and so focused with wanting what I can never get back, which is the 14 years. That was the motive and the motivation for my fight. And I tell people all the time, I can't speak to people as to what they should find for their motivation. I mean, I don't know that. But mine was that son of mine, who not only was there was a wedge, driven in between he and my relationship. It got wider and wider to the point where I couldn't even communicate with him. And he's now in a place that I just firmly I know that he wouldn't be if that hadn't happened. And I focused on what I called my enemy. And thus, the battle can never be satisfied with dollars and cents, whether I was a super billionaire or I had one dime in my pocket. I went into that battle, which is when I take into doing what I do now as far as the coaching aspect, or if they want to call me a teacher or whatever people want to refer me to. I want them to say, well, this is a guy who went through an experience, and he wants to keep anybody else who suffered because of it from going through the experience. I don't even look at it so much as the system. The ability to retain the information and the knowledge was always there. It's my perspective that kept me from asserting what was already in me. The Creator had already dropped it in me. The universe that says it's come together and create this Shigret guy through the parents of Calvin and Queen. And everything was there. I had to just exercise what was already within me. I had to pull it out. And going through the experience, being knocked down and getting up is what helped strengthen me. But I did go in there with the focus and with the mission. And over time, I kind of developed a particular formula, because it's only a problem when you don't have the formula to solve it. But that has to begin from within, Brother Johnny.
I don't know what you were talking about, and you talked about what you went through. Scriptures often come to my mind, and that's just due to a lot of the reading that I've done over the years. And I think certain things that we retain through movies, different books, scriptures, Constitution, case law, and these different things will come up when situations happen or arise, a conversation where you won't even be thinking about it, and then it just pop in your mind, and it speaks to that. So as he was speaking, it's a scripture that says, "For all things work for the good of those who are called, for the good of God, according to those who are called. All things work for the good of those who are called according to His purpose." So this is saying what we were created for, and your purpose of being here. So the good and bad, the duality of life. You can't have negative without the positive, the yin, the yang, good, the evil. So, and like it tells you, put off of the old man, and behold, all things have become new. And so they speak to saying, well, you've been born again, and a new birth has taken place within yourself. So, and to me, that's just deciding on what pole or polarity that you want to operate on, whether it's the hot side of that thermometer or whether it's the cold side of it. But, yet have the proper balance. And to me, that's when you're able to be skillful and bring forth the application. So I would say that what we would deem to be evil or bad at certain times was necessary for you to go through, because it catapulted you to somewhere. Had that motivation not come, and then it wasn't only for you. A lot of things we think we go through for ourselves because we're in the hot seat. But what are you the forerunner for the next generation, for the future of others, for your kids, for others' kids? And when I look and speak to the importance of those things, and so it's a greater purpose, it's a higher purpose than what we see. So that's how we have to see the big picture a lot of times, not to see it or selfishly on what we're doing. Maybe it's about us, it's bigger than that. You just think, had you went and you could say, well, yeah, but the Creator would have just chose someone else to do the same thing. But I was speaking to what took place to make that happen. So what was deemed wrong it was a purpose for it. And you can see throughout scriptures and texts that what appeared to be negative situations that took place of incarceration of Joseph, according to that story, was significant, because had he not been incarcerated and sent forward, and then his gift made room for him and his ability to interpret dreams, where it put him before the chamber of Pharaoh, where even his own charmers and enchanters couldn't interpret the dream, but here he was and was able to, and it launched him in the position to be second in command, basically, with the signet of the ring of the Pharaoh next to him, and prepared him and we just speaking to the story of the one he says mythological or whatever, but I think it's the power in the story. So, and then we say, well, want to say also that mythology is just something that's science. But anyway, when we're looking at the power of the story, in context, how I'm speaking to the same thing that happened to you and how powerful that is. If you look at it, that's, I think, our perspective and our outlook and our position on how we see it and our focus. So we can't focus on things that's going to distract us and deter us. And I think that's a lot of times what hurt us, man. It's what we focus on or where our attention, we set our attention and give our power to. As far as what we're going through, what happens, and I see that y'all was your strength. It became a lot of our strength in certain things. What pushed us to where we was at, or your mindset wasn't even on that. You didn't know it existed, but then a harm came to your son or whatever happened in the relationship, and then it pushed you. What was the city? Abiding citizen or whatever for the movie.
The Law-Abiding Citizen with
right,
Rod Butler.
Just, if you look at the context of what happened in that, you know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna say about he went to the extreme, but look how he went and learned everything and they system. Look what pushed him there. So there are things that push us there. So we can say, well, dang, that was a bad thing that happened, but it turned out good for a lot of other people that you learn what you're learning. Because why? You had conquered, you had success in some areas that nobody had success before, and it opened the door for others to be able to come behind that and follow. Someone goes and wins in the case law, Doss versus whoever, and this case law forever be established where one can come behind it. We need those kind of success and things to take place. But one doesn't always struggle in the uphill battle that a person had to go through to get there. We just tend to look at the victory part of it, or what one has continued to be successful where they at. But we don't know what it took to get there.
I guess when I set out there, I guess I did kind of set out to do something for people who probably otherwise weren't going to do it for themselves. And I said, I wanted to make a difference. I thought I owed and I'd done a lot of things that weren't necessarily pleasant and beautiful in life. And let's not forget, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to shut the show down and bring it back up. So go out of this show and call the number again, because I don't know when it's going to otherwise kill the show. But I wanted to continue the discussion. I definitely want to get into the monetary system on the next episode and allow Brother Jamil to continue on as we speak about. And people don't think, well, how does one thing have to do with the other? I think they're absolutely correlative when it comes to the next level of thinking. Because there's a part of that Bible that says that your battle is not with flesh and blood, but with spiritual wickedness in high places. So if you limit yourself to what you think you know, because it can't apply, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, you're not going to be successful, because you're going to have to dig very deep. And I'm also hoping that Brother True will come in on the second part, because he's been in there as well. And when it comes time to dig deep, they're going to throw enough at you to make you, at least me, in my case, I question myself. But then every time I question myself and say, well, maybe I'll just do what everybody else says, something pushed me, or someone pushed me. I'm sure that my father, the support I was getting at home, I'm sure there was times when I don't know what they were actually thinking, as far as, maybe he should give up. My father, as I told Will today, Will didn't even know until the day. He said, man, just go pay it. Let me just pay it. I'm like, no, Dad, I got to do this based on principle. I said, I have to do this. And he said, he'd always say, let me know. He said, let me know. And I'll go even till when I missed the court date and they came to get me. I had no idea, what was going on, but I had my youngest son with me. And I realized to what level they would go to, and I'm listening to the chit-chat going in my ear about what they were going to do to me. And when they went ahead and they took me down, I told my son's mother to come get him. And then I told my dad, I said, this is what's going to happen. He said, well, how much do they need? I said, no, let me see what they're going to do. I said, if I'm there for more than 2 weeks, then come get me. Because the purge is like $1,000, $7,000, some crazy number. I said, no, let's see what they're going to do. And I'm not recommending that anybody do this. So I go in there. She's worried. She gets my boy. I got to hug him. Don't see my daughter. I don't know what she tells him. My oldest son, who was with me at the time, wasn't home yet. But I said, I'll sit. And while I sat, I didn't eat. And things started to become clear to me. They come get me a couple of days later. I gave their ass $20 and said, okay, now that fear is now gone. So what are you going to offer?
And Greg, I want to make sure we add on to that. So sometimes people just plugging in newly and haven't been following along. So and don't think that it's a promotion of what he's saying to say that someone promoting what he does for dad beat dads and what they call dad beat dads, because it's a lot of guys that take care of their kids and provide for them. But it's just one solely saying that you don't need a mediator or somebody to stand in before them and say, you send your money through me. That has nothing to do with the birth of the kid. It's between the parent, the father, and the mother. So we're just speaking to that and the issues that it caused for them to be mediators. Yeah, you can have men that are not going to do what they're going to do naturally anyway, but the weight don't allow the system to benefit off of it, even though we have a misnomer of thinking that it's got the child in mind or the mother in mind, where it feeds itself. It ain't thinking about any of us, but that's the illusion that's been, because it's corporate, it's about business. That's what it's in place for. But most people can't see between the illusion, so they're just thinking, oh, they're here to benefit, to help us. For these men and force them to do this and that. The obligation should just be that we got to take care of our kids anyways. So.
Well, I'll continue this. I'm going to shut it down in a couple of minutes and bring it back up so that we can continue this discussion. I'm going to tell you and go into the further part of the story or into other stories, but I want to get into the monetary system, so we'll hang on and some other things. And True, you're out there, and I definitely want to go a little bit deeper. He's going for like 25 or 30 more minutes, so I don't want to lose anything from this show if it drops off. I think I may have a little bit of time left with this right here. But, to summarize that, what it showed me is what people who I have yet to see through my son's other ordeals show their faces lets me know that this thing never was anything but an enemy to the family. So with that being said, people, I'll be back in 5. Take a break, get a glass of water, text people, Brother Ikemba will be back. Will Crowley will be back to discuss further what he's been, what his experiences were relative to his dealing with the UCC, negotiable instruments, and what you're going to find yourself dealing with as it comes down to enforcing what you're actually entitled to through the Uniform Commercial Code. It's time to move to the next level of thinking. Part 2 at Squid University. We're on with William Crowley, who's our credit restoration man. I'm waiting for everybody to bounce out and come back in. I hope it wasn't that difficult, and maybe it takes them a couple of seconds as we here they all come. And I appreciate everybody who was here and who stepped out and is coming back in. And if you're out there, Drew, and you want to speak, press the number 1. I know you've been here for a while, but we're going to get into, back onto the issue of, the ability of a person who knows something to show proof that they know what it is that they say they know. And I think it becomes very important, particularly when we live in a time where there's some pain out there, and I think it's very important to keep in mind that when you want to be a teacher, you are here to teach, or that you are here to show that you represent the bad probably first, right, Will? Before you begin to tell them about the I guess the fruits, the spoils of victory, because I don't know how many people may have gone that direction. I got my behind kicked a lot more than I actually had the victories, but I learned so much in the behind kickings because I began to expect the victory. So I'm not really that celebratory in wins. They're there, and I appreciate them. I respect them, and I consider them truly the Creator validating those things that I knew were already there. But those stumbling blocks are what build strength. Those stumbling blocks build character, because it's the stumbling blocks that others will use as reasons to laugh or deny, or I guess kind of side with the other entities why you can or can't do anything. Brother True, what's going on? I appreciate you stopping by. Tell everybody what you do and what you have going on if you want, or how you feel about the subject matter. In fact,
I do a little bit of everything, and I came in a little bit late, but from what I've heard, I got to go back and listen to the replay of it to see what the how it started out. I came in a little bit late. I've been up for a couple of days pretty much, so I'm just wore the hell out, but I had to come through to show a little bit of support. And to back up with, a little bit about what you were saying in regards to the court situation earlier, when I came in, it's like, you people got to get out here and fight the fight. And pretty much what you said, I describe it to be, I posted in the chat, to be on-job training. That's what it's pretty much called. Everything I've learned and that I know and I'm pretty much a master at, I learned hands-on, and even dealing with the court situation, you can listen to these calls every day. But when you go into the court system and you face with the prosecutor, the judge, about 5, 6, 7 deputies, depending on how many they choose to bring in, that brings fear about in your life. That's why you have to pretty much experience it yourself, because when you just put in documents and shit and think things are going to go away or not go to court and things like that, you just basically setting yourself up. And as I'm pretty much, I'm sick. I'm pretty much sick to the stomach about a lot of the things that's been going on lately. So I got some things planned, and it's going to be on the private side. So those who want to deal with it or be a part of it, that's fine. Those who don't, that's fine as well. But I'm just sick of what's really going on, and you people need to wake up, because you're going to have to experience it to basically master it. You can't sit back and just think you read some things and you know it all. It doesn't work that way. You know, you have to have some on-the-job training, and what Brother Greg Doss was saying before he, swapped shows or whatever or restarted it. I pretty much describe it as on-the-job training. You have to actually experience it. There's a good movie that I want you all to check out as well. It's called The Blind Side. Have you seen that, Brother Doss?
About Robert Orr, the football player?
Yeah.
Michael Orr? Yeah.
It was a young black kid or whatever. You know, it's supposed to be a true story, based on a true story. But, he was homeless and a white lady picked him up, you know what I mean, and took him in. And I guess they just assumed that he was going to be he could be a football player. The thing of it was he didn't know how to play damn football, But they done I would call it a psych evaluation on him or a mental evaluation on him. And the one thing that spiked their interest was the fact that he had a protective instinct in regards to his family, friends, or anyone close to him. And that's what the white lady used, which was the white family took him in. That's what she used to get him to understand how to play his position, on the defensive end. It's a real good movie, man. I just suggest people watch that. And, you have to pretty much be protective of your rights. That's how I see it. I look at a lot of these movies they put out, and they have a lot of messages in them. But I'm not going to go too much further than that. I just wanted to mention the fact that, you guys got to get some on-job training. Stop reading and doing these documents and listening to these shows and thinking you're going to go into court and just automatically win. It doesn't work that way. You got to show and prove. I've been there. I've done that. I don't mind losing because I know I'm going to win. You have to lose in order to win. No one wins every game or every match or every fight, but you want to be you want to get the better end of it, so I don't know, man. It's just, man, it's a lot going on, man, and it's just like I don't think people really realize, what's at stake here. Y'all putting y'all life, y'all family, y'all freedom on the line, and I don't think you really realize it, and you thinking a piece of paperwork is going to save you. The paperwork is only a form of notice, so you got to step your game up, and you got to get out here on the football field and take some hits in order to win. That's just the way it works. You're not going to win them all, and even if you win, you get back up and you keep on pushing. That's what I've done. That's what I'm going to continue to do. I probably will lose some in the future. Who knows what will happen? But what I do know is I will never drop to my knees. So that's pretty much what I got to say, because I came in on the ass end of the show. I came in pretty late. That's my fault. But I just, just heard what you and Brother Jamie said, and I don't know who the other guest is, but heard a couple things he said. So I just sit back. Y'all got some questions for me. I'm here as long as I can keep it up.
No doubt, I appreciate you, brother Will. I was gonna move into this thing about, and you're also here, Jamie, correct? To continue on with.
Yeah, I'm here.
I know some of the people on the we hear you well. The people on the left coast are probably wide awake and bubbling for the information. Those on the right coast are probably getting a little lazy in the eyes. But we all overstand it. But I appreciate you gentlemen, the three of you now, in coming on to continue to move forward with this discussion and conversation. I want to get back into this now. I have a little bit more time when I talk about my people going to exile for a lack of understanding, and True spoke to it. But what he said, you take a great risk, and again, I can never stop thanking you, Will, for telling me about your experience, because I may have hopped out in there, wide-eyed and said, let me just try something too. So you told me what happened, and I'm thinking that there's probably some remedy in what you went through, because I'm getting a greater understanding of what happened on the back end. I mean, now that we spoken more about it in detail. But tell me, why is it that you, when you started to give demonstrations, you feel it was important to tell me, before you told me what you ended up getting that was beneficial out of it, why did you feel the need to tell me about that part first? Well,
Yeah, because I hear all these people, they always want to tell you the great stuff. I mean, even historians do the same thing. They tell you all the great aspects of ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, and its contribution to civilization. And so I always say, listen, start out with the bad. Tell people the bad aspects of something, because people are always anticipating the glorification of something, the great side of it. But you want to show them, and it's really not a downside. It's just there are two sides to every issue. There's what you want to call it, the laws of the universe, the yin and the yang, the opposite and the what opposites attract. So we can't look at it as any type of a setback or inhibition. These are all advantageous positions. It's just that some are more glorious to us than others. But I definitely want to kind of attack that approach that most people have taken in the past, where they just tell you here's all the great things that can happen when you start to utilize these type of instruments or these type of procedures. So I always open up with people, even with John Mee. When I first met John Mee, way back in the day, I told him, okay, the UCC has a lot of great aspects to it, but here are my experiences with it. Nevertheless, I wasn't trying to discourage anybody. Like I said earlier in the prior discussion, I'm not trying to discourage you, but I'm going to tell you, look here. Here are the setbacks too, because I know you already set to hear all the great aspects of it. But let me just let's balance out this discussion, and let me share with you the whole picture. Okay, that picture that probably most people aren't sharing with you. So that's the approach that I use even with yourself, Greg, when I started sharing with you my experiences with the UCC back in 2001, 2002, up until I started facing the courts in 2004 for our procedures that we were using. And a lot of people like to say, oh, they were flawed and all like that. And now, like I said, I beg to differ. People nowadays, one of the problems that we have that I see in this movement, and if I can be just blunt, is all you motherfuckers just think y'all know every goddamn thing and y'all don't. Okay, get some experience, like the gentleman was just saying a minute ago. Get some goddamn experience first. Get in there and get your head beat in, or get in there and lose some cases, and then come back. See, I'm still here. I ain't gave this stuff up because it's a way of life for me. Okay, I didn't just come in there for the monetary rewards or the monetary gain. I looked at it as a way of life, and I want to share it with people as a way of life. The setbacks are just as great as the drawbacks. So when I was being beat up by the police, when I was being thrown into jail, when I was facing the 50 years in prison, those were the learning experience, yet until I was scared to death. I ain't going to lie to you. I was scared to death, but I pursued it, and I persisted because there was that aspect of the lack of knowledge, which, of course, the Bible gets it from the Book of the Dead, but I'll quote it just for y'all's understanding is that my people are destroyed by the lack of knowledge. That's Hosea 4 and 6, with the praises of Akhenaten and them said that way before. But nevertheless, I wanted, and I'm going to tell you, well, I will start out always with the negative side of it. But I want to encourage people to continue this fight because I know we're on the right path. And just because you're being thrown in jail or beat down doesn't mean necessarily that you're doing anything wrong. There's powers out there that don't want us to start to exercise these type of remedies and these type of measures. They don't want you to do it because they have an interest in keeping you, what you want to call it, enslaved to a system of debt. And the problem is we're believing it and we're playing the role right along for them so that it makes their job a lot easier. But I love to see the aspect as well. And I mean, I've been critical of the current movement, but I'm also would like to applaud it as well because people are still out there trying to do these things. And I just want to be able to share my experiences, both the good and the bad, so that it will influence you and encourage you to continue approach it cautiously, but continue to do and struggle with trying to get an understanding of what we need to do to break free of our enslavement, the enslavement that we've created for ourselves.
Now, Will, if you don't mind, can you tell? I mean, if you rather not, tell them now the good part of what you actually had accomplished.
Okay, and before I get into that, right when we got on, Greg, there was a gentleman that came on that said he had some questions. Did you want to entertain those right quick, or do you want to?
No, you can go your question, hit the question first, and then come back and tell everybody the part that so many of them are going to probably cling to, and you probably have your credit restoration thing explode after they found out something else that you did. But go ahead, Arthur, you have Brother Crowley on. You also have.
That I move forward with because, you know, I kind of want to make my walk in my everyday living foreign to the jurisdiction of the federal government. So does your service also include, you know, helping people set up a way to move in a way that lets, I guess, those company officials know that you're not a part of their company, that you're just trying to live your life and trying to feed your family?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm coming from the old school, so I have a lot of the old asset protection guys from back in the early '90s that can come, you know, that can definitely share with you some strategies on how to stay out of the system. Make sure you understand, I understand what I do now. I'm cleaning up what some people would refer to as that straw man or et cetera. I'm cleaning you up. But I'm cleaning you up. And for those that are on this call, I'm not cleaning you up for you to re-enter the system. Nevertheless, my program in which I work around the country, I'm cleaning them up so they can re-enter the system from the same disadvantaged perspective that they approached it prior to coming to me. But on this call, I'm dealing with a higher level of consciousness here, where I'm saying, okay, let me clean up the past. Okay, let's get them out of your private affairs. But then, if you're going to go back into the system, here's a new way to approach it. Okay, right. So that's my approach. Now, yeah, do I have people? Yeah, but there's even people on this call that can use and that have strategies that they can share with you as well, other than myself, on how to stay out of there, or if you're going to go into that arena, you can approach it from a more advantageous perspective. So we can do a private consultation on that.
Yeah, I talked to Sonya on Facebook, so we'll be getting together soon. So.
Oh, that was you that sent the message?
Yeah, that was
okay. All right, bro. All right, great. Okay, all right. Okay, did you have any more questions or comments?
No, just the reason why I asked it, because I know even though we don't try to commingle those, you know, still sometimes they have a way of finding out, and they'll go look at it and see, well, they'll still find a way sometimes to find that information just to see what type of credit history you got. So if that credit is cleaned up, you know, that'll be a plus too, you know, so.
Well, yeah, because those debt collectors are going to pursue you probably until the day that you die. So I would definitely want people to enter my program just so I can issue validation of debts on those collectors. But I'm not just trying to encourage you to go to me. You know, like I told people, read that Fair Credit Reporting Act and that Fair Debt Collection Practices Act found at ftc.gov. That's the Federal Trade Commission website. Go there and look at that information. And, you know, like I say, you don't necessarily have to go through me. I'd like for you to, because that's my source of income. But nevertheless, you know, look at that stuff still. Even though if you do decide to hire me or utilize my services, I want you to be familiar with these strategies, because you can always, every time a person reads this, a different person, you bring different strategies and information to me as well. So you read it in a different context than I do, and it can only help me to strengthen my business and help you to strengthen yourself as a whole, you know, as well.
Right.
Hey, much appreciated. Sharing the information, 347-838-8420. 347-838-8420. We're on with part two. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Brother Jami right now. Hopefully he'll come back pretty soon. So I'll say for the spiritual reckoning. Now, Will, you were speaking to the bad. And do you mind telling everybody what the good part was that actually led, I'm sure, to you creating a new list of Christmas card list. But
Yeah, there was there. That's what enticed me. First, in 1999, when I had my first encounter, not with so much the UCC, but with the IRS, when I was working a job here in Florida, and I was approached by saying, "Listen, I was paying a lot in taxes. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you right now, I was paying about I was making good money back then. I was paying about $5,000 a month just in taxes alone, and I was saying to myself, "Good Lord, man, this is ridiculous. I'm paying this type of money. Where's this money going? Where are these tax dollars going?" So, I started doing research and then went to some of the presentations around Florida and started to understand the voluntary compliance side of the income tax system. Now, some people would differ with me and use different strategies, but this is the strategy that I use, okay? I'm not telling you that it's the only way, it's the right way, but it was the right way for me at the time. So once I started to understand the voluntary compliance side of the income tax, I decided to exercise my option and withdraw and kind of rescind that contract. And so it was successful. Now, I did that prior to having any knowledge of the UCC, but that was a motivating factor because now I had an extra $5,000 in myself and my family's pocket each month. Now, mind you, I was married at the time. I'm now divorced, but the wife that I divorced is the one that she was right in there. We still run our credit restoration business today together, even though we're divorced. And we went through hell. Most of you all are out there doing it solo. Your women, your wife, your companion ain't involved in it all. And that wasn't the case with me. My wife at the time was heavily involved in this. We learned from each other. She taught me a lot. I taught her a lot. We went to jail together. We were facing the 50 years in prison together. Our children were being forced to be taken from us and everything. So we did it together, and it was much more exhilarating. I hear a lot of people on these calls talking about, going at it solo. I said, listen, get these women involved, whether they're a silent companion or a vocal companion. They should. Your mate, your significant other, etc., should be involved in this, okay? Because this is a way of life. This ain't just some temporary relief from the financial system. This is a way of life. And if you're getting in it for any other reason, you need to just stop. Because you got to envision this as a way of life. Now, once that attractive procedure or that process was exercised where I was able to put $5,000 in my pocket a month, I said, wait, hey, this is great. So then the person who had introduced me to the tax thing said, listen, I want you to go on a little cruise with us. We're going to share with you something about this UCC. And I was dumbfounded, totally dumbfounded. Then I said, UCC? What the hell is UCC? So, but the lady that was teaching this to us had just been recently divorced from her husband. You'll find that a lot of divorces happen from doing this as well. But me and my ex-wife, who still works together today, it was an exhilarating experience. Okay, so I would strongly encourage that get that spouse, that other party involved. Okay, because you can learn so much more when you're working together. See, I was doing the presentation, and my wife was writing the scripts and everything for me to go out and do the presentation. She was doing the UCCs for us. She was filing the tax paperwork and all the other the OIDs and everything that we did. We were right there together, and we see, like I said, we still are tight to this day. We're just not married any longer. So anyway, so the UCC was very appealing, but the lady that was going to teach it to me, she kind of disappeared. Okay, and we still don't know where she's at to this very day. But a friend that shortly thereafter, I met another friend, and he was introducing a business opportunity to me. And as he was introducing the business opportunity to me, I mentioned the IRS tax system and what my new relationship was with the system. And he was very intrigued and started to do research on that. But also he had started doing research on the UCC. So he came back and told me, this was in 2001, 2002, and listen, I think I got a very interesting way of dealing with debt, and that is to discharge it, and you can use the negotiable instrument section of the Uniform Commercial Code. Now, if you think I was intrigued by saving those extra $5,000 in taxes, this was even more intriguing and exhilarating to me to hear that I could discharge my debt, because that means now that I didn't need a job. So I quit my job, and I started teaching the UCC, and it was going good there for a while, from 2002 to about 2004. I mean, we were doing people around the country. You know, we was, and when I say doing people, we were doing a presentation. We charged $600 for the paperwork, and and that included one discharge of a debt, a house or a car. So we had a lot of people coming to us. You know, now nevertheless, remember I was also doing the credit repair. I was introduced to that in 1999 as well. So it seemed like I got bombarded with all these advantages in kind of a 1 to 2 year span, and I did take advantage of it. So I quit my job, and me and my wife went full time doing this. And remember now, I want to let y'all know, I have 10 children. Okay, now me and my wife that were together, we had 6 children together at the time. And we pulled our children out of the public food system and started homeschooling at the same time that we would do. So we did everything at once. And so the reason why I'm saying that the companion aspect is because I couldn't have done all that by myself. You know, because we were homeschooling our children, teaching them African history, teaching them the UCC, etc. Quit our job, not paying taxes, showing people how to not pay taxes, showing people how to participate in discharging debt, and we were encouraging them to leave their jobs as well and to start, you know, discharging debt. So I mean, listen, I don't like do things halfway. When I get into it, I want to get into it and do it, okay? And even if I make mistakes, that's part of learning. That's part of learning. And I didn't know everything about it, but I knew enough to say, okay, I don't need this job. I don't need to be paying no taxes in the system. I don't need my children in the public food system. I know it's kind of humorous, but I'm telling you, this is the truth now, okay?
Nah, it ain't humorous to me, man. I feel where you coming from.
All right. But anyway, so as I go on now, then people started coming to me. We were discharging debt, but then a few months later, we started to see them, what we call it, monetizing the debt and reversing it. So people's homes that we were discharging, assisting in discharging, or the cars that we were discharging, the credit cards, etc. Now, mind you, I started discharging my stuff first. Okay, I went through it. I had 5 cases of child support and over $100,000 in child support, I believe, or more than that. And I started to write bills of exchanges to, you know, discharge all of that as well. So.
Hey, stop. And now tell them what happened with one of those child support cases. This is kind of interesting. And I'm
okay. Oh yeah. Well,
just because I think that there's something.
One lady. Oh, go ahead. Huh? So
no, I said I've been not comfortable teaching it to the extent that I would tell everybody what happened for her. You'll find this entertaining teacher. But go ahead.
Well, okay. So, like I said, I started discharging child support and everything. We went after everything. Me and my wife. I mean, we went after everything: the cars, student loans, credit cards, child support, everything. Any debt that we had, we were writing bills of exchanges on it. Okay, and that back then we were doing bills of exchange. I know people are doing some other creative procedures now, but bills of exchange was a big thing back then. Okay, so one of my baby mothers. I have 5 baby mamas and 10 children altogether. For those of you, and I'm not ashamed of none of this. That's why I'm, readily sharing it with you. And I take care of my children, by the way. But I did have arrears in child support because once I started to kind of understand what was going on with the child support system, I said, okay, hey, I'm not paying this stuff. I'm going to discharge it because I'm in violation by issuing Federal Reserve notes. Even when I was in court one time for child support, I demanded from the judge. I said. She said to pay my child support, and I said, are you telling me to pay it in Federal Reserve notes? And she wouldn't answer. I really wish I could have recorded some of my stuff back then because we went back and forth on a number of different exchanges saying, She said, pay your child support. I said, are you telling me to pay it in Federal Reserve notes? She said, I don't give a damn how you, she said, I don't give a damn. I don't care how you pay it, Mr. Crowley. You just pay the child support. I said, are you telling me to pay it in Federal Reserve notes? Because at the time, we knew that if we were demanded to pay something in Federal Reserve notes, that was a violation of the code or something like that. Remember, this is back in 2001, 2002, folks, so I can't, just give you the exact verbiage that I used back then. I can just, kind of paraphrase. But we knew that she could not, this judge, or this, what you call them, Greg, in the child support court, the magistrates or whatever? Hearing officer. We knew that they couldn't demand that we paid anything in Federal Reserve notes. So that was an interesting exchange. But nevertheless, on with what I was talking about, one of the mothers received I guess it was, maybe I was in the rears about $200,000 because one of the baby mamas, mothers of my children, received an $80,000 check. So she received the $80,000. She received the $80,000 check from the Department of Commerce. Well, yeah, I guess you would say from the Department of Commerce because at the time we were doing this, we were sending the bill of exchange. We would tell them to take this bill of exchange and utilize my exemption through my Social Security number with the Department of Commerce. And so the check was issued, and she was scared to cash it. And now she gave me an interesting story. She said that the FBI visited her and encouraged her not to cash the check, and that I was doing some illegal stuff, and I'm under investigation. And if she was to cash the check, she would be under investigation too. Now she didn't tell me that.
Why did they write the damn check then?
Yeah, he's right. Exactly.
Now here's where my overstanding of it. Here's where my understanding is. I won't say it's an overstanding. My understanding is that was the check that was issued via that mechanism. She could have actually deposited the check and discharged based upon the deposit.
That's right. That's the shit right there.
You
just said it. You just said it right there. See, look.
Listen,
hold on, Doss. That right there is what.
That's not legal advice. I'm not an attorney, but based on what I've studied, based on my studies, and a lot of people probably had no idea that I do this. That as long as that check set, and she made it a strictly deposit for deposit only, she could have discharged off of what was there. Because all you did was shifted credit.
That's the key.
She could have built a line of credit. She could have built her credit by putting that in a bank account, leaving it there, and she could have showed
and set off on right and set off, and she could have helped pay down the national debt, which they don't want you to do. You know the brothers that's out here trying to fatten their pockets and shit. Believe me, they going down. So you remember the video I did where I discharged that $41,000 IRS debt? That shit never reversed. It wasn't mine. It was somebody else's. I didn't get paid. I helped a damn friend. You know what I mean? So the thing of it was I wrote the check over the actual known amount to be owed, just in case by the time they received it, there was some additional fees. Well, when they did the transaction, there was a refund of only about $40-something, I can't remember. It's been a few years ago. But I told my buddy, I said, do not cash that damn check. Man, I'm going to cash it. I'm like, it ain't even that much. Listen, you cash that check, you're going to jail. Because now you're trying to profit. I said, now what you can do, I said you can take that refund check that the IRS sent you, and I show all this shit on YouTube. I said you can take that check and you can sign it over to the light company, gas company. I don't give a fuck who you sign over to. Don't cash it. Pay down another debt. You see what I'm saying? And you're perfectly fine. But I don't want to go too much into that. I'm loving it, brother. I love what I'm hearing, though. At least somebody out there thinking.
But yes, I'm glad you all are capitalizing off of this because, I'm just sharing with you what my experience was back then so we won't repeat the past. But nevertheless, keep on doing what you're doing out there. So And so I was.
Hopefully, if anybody has any questions, press the number 1.
Oh.
But
yeah.
I don't even think truthfully that I knew that much about how this thing was supposed to work by theory and just by the reading of it all. But that was what should have been done. I guess maybe had you had that body of information, I'm sure you would have shared that. 347-838-8420, 347-838-8420. This is the longest ever Squid Universe, and you're never going to get it this way again. A high level of thinking and moving forward. But go ahead, True.
No.
He didn't know the rest of the story. We'll tell the rest of the story.
Oh, okay. You said True. I know. I thought True. Okay. Well, anyway, so, and we were intrigued, and we weren't so much thinking of fattening our pockets as much as trying to get out the system. See, because prior to that, let me just digress just for a minute. Prior to me entering the arena of the non-payment of taxes and utilizing UCC in 1997 to 1998, I had sued the Pinellas County School District for what you want to call violation of the constitutional rights of black students because there weren't any real solid African history programs in the school system to give the black children, African children, et cetera, whatever. You know, I know people have different titles that they give, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying, you know, based on the terminology I've used in the past. But we wanted an African history curriculum in the school system that would give the so-called black children at the time more sense of self-worth. We said we hear everybody else's history. So I was becoming disgruntled with the school system and the system in general prior to 1999. I want to make sure people are clear on that. But in 1999, when these monetary advantageous programs were introduced to me, so I was already leading a life of resistance. So this here just complemented it, for lack of a better phrase. It complemented it. So I went into it gung ho because to get out the system and to be able to help others get out of the system and become more knowledgeable about it, or become more knowledgeable about it and then get out. Man, that was exhilarating to me. I mean, you can't beat that. So we had people coming to us in droves, not only for the credit restoration, which we were doing then too, like I said, but to discharge debt, to challenge the IRS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I tried to emphasize to people, look, and one thing, when you're talking to people, you have to be real careful when you're sharing this information with people, because most of the people are only going to see what True says, to fatten their pockets. We want to look at this as a way to balance the national debt and to make a system that's fair and just for all of us to participate. Okay, that's what we really want. If you're just coming in this for temporary monetary gain, you really shouldn't do it, because more than likely you're going to end up in jail, because I wasn't going into it from that perspective, and I ended up in jail. So I know damn well those who coming in it for these greedy measures, they were going to be dealt with in a different way. And most of the people that came to me were doing that, and then I started to see the biblical connection to it, the Book of the Dead and the King James Version of the Bible. And I started to say, okay, this whole monetary system is based on that concept. So we started 2003 and 2004, we started intertwining the whole biblical connection to it. And when I say biblical, when I say Bible, I'm talking about the Book of the Dead as well as this King James Version, which came out of the Book of the Dead, okay? But it's a more difficult read. So for those of you, I would strongly encourage that, anybody on this phone, regardless of your nationality, go look at the Book of the Dead as well, and consider that when we start to articulate these verses in the King James Version, because that also helped me to get a better understanding. So let me tell you, people are coming to us in droves, okay? And
I want you to tell me you. I'm not laughing. Hey, people, you think, what the hell is this about? Listen, this is a build-up to something that's going to catch a lot of people's attention. He did this. It happened. And this is where the repercussion came from. And it probably would have been much more severe, and it may be much more severe today if you make this kind of error. But go ahead, Will.
Excellent. Yeah, let's get to the real part now. What the repercussions? So that was the fact that we were happy as hell, So we were doing well back then. Then all of a sudden, police come to my door. First of all, the first thing that happened was one of the people that we had done, we called it a secure party back then. Okay, we had helped them become a secure party, and we were going to discharge. They said, well, I don't want to discharge my car because I don't have a car payment, but we need a new car. I said, well, we haven't became that creative yet, so I can only really deal with discharging debt. I'm not going to tell you to go to a car dealership and get a car, and we're going to issue a bill of exchange to deal with that debt. But nevertheless, this person behind our back went to the car dealership, said that me and my wife was his CPA, and that we were going to be cutting them a check for a vehicle. So I don't know how this happened, but this guy went home with a brand new car, didn't put a dime down, and gave them the impression that we were CPAs and we were going to cut a check. So we got a call from the dealership about, a couple days later, asking us for the check. And me and my wife, like I said, we were totally at a loss because we didn't know what the hell they were talking about because this guy hadn't even told us about it. So we called the guy after the dealership called us and said, hey, what's going on here? You got a dealership calling us about a vehicle. And so, I don't want to go all into it, but essentially he had told them that we were CPAs. So they in turn told us, well, they got the car back and then they were pursuing criminal charges against him. But since he had implemented us and said that we were his CPA, they want us to come in for defamation. Now, back then, we didn't deal with the courts at all. We were not constitutionalists. We didn't have time for the courts because when you could discharge a debt, all we want to do is ask the court what was the amount of the fee, and we would discharge it accordingly. So to go into court, we back then we knew we were going to lose because we knew it was their court. So, and we knew that when we were dealing with this financial system, we had seen all the deaths of the presidents, just with the presidents alone, prior to this, that we said, if they'll kill a president, they'll definitely deal with us. So we didn't want to go into the court, so they asked us to come in and do I think it's called a defamation. And we said, no, we're not gonna come in, but we did send paperwork. We would never ignore these people.
It may be a deposition, but go ahead.
Deposition. What I say it was?
Defamation.
Defamation.
Don't go any deeper. Just
Anti-defamation league. Sorry about that.
No, okay. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay, anti-defamation league. Should I go on that? Oh no.
No.
All right.
No,
yeah. The deposition, yeah. So we told them no, we weren't gonna come in, but we sent paperwork to deal with the issue, and of course they issued a warrant for my arrest because I didn't come in, and so me and my wife had went on a cruise to the Bahamas, and on our way back, my wife was sharp with this paperwork, so she kept her eyes on the what do you call it when you can see if you got a warrant out for your arrest or anything, you can see the court records, so we can pull up on a laptop, and so she was getting worried because we sent in the paper, but we're still being cautious. So she said we got a warrant out for our arrest. So when we landed back, we went to Atlanta first, and that's where I guess we flew into Atlanta. Then we were on our way back to flying here. As soon as we touched down, my wife said at the time, but let's go into hiding. And I said, no, let's, my position was, no, let's go in there and deal with these people because no need in going to hide. We got children and, all this kind of stuff. We were homeschooling. We didn't want to create more animosity than what they already had against us. But I went ahead and followed my wife's lead because, my wife, like I said, we were partners in this. So we decided to go ahead and go into hiding, but you had to still issue paperwork. Well, that lasted for about 2 weeks. And then they came and got me. They found out where I wasn't hiding. So they came in. Greg, don't you say nothing now. The police came to the door. Now, they asked for William Crowley. Now, some of you know me as William Crowley on this phone. Other people know me by my African name of Ikemba Osoka. So when some people say Ikemba, some people say William. That's all the same person for you, those of you who don't know. So, but they came to my door and they were asking for William Crowley. Now, where I was at in hiding, okay? And I said, there's no William Crowley here because I knew that, I'm the secure party. So I'm not William Crowley any longer. Not the capitalized version, in other words. so now they came to my house at 1 o'clock in the morning Now, my wife was at another location with the children. So they came to the door. I was asleep, and they banged on the door, and I was kind of, disillusioned and amazed. I'm saying, what's going on 1 o'clock in the morning? Who's knocking, banging on my door? So I jumped up. I thought it was the person I was staying with. They lost their key or whatever, but it was the police at the door. So I said, who is it? And they said, it's the St. Petersburg Police Department, and we heard that there's a disturbance, that you and your wife had an altercation or something like that. I said, no. I said, ain't nothing like that happened. They said, well, may we speak to your wife? I said, my wife's not here, but we haven't had it, so I should prove to you that there's no altercation because me and my wife aren't even together right now. And they said, well, we need to come in. Are you William Crowley? And I said, no, I'm not William Crowley. Boom, boom, boom. Went back and forth with that. And finally, they forced their way in. I got to crack the door. Okay, finally they forced their way in. And it's like about 1:45 a.m. in the morning now, And I'm still in a state of disillusionment because, I'm dreaming and everything, relaxed. So they dragged me outside, slammed me on the ground, almost broke my leg. I mean, I limped on my leg while I was in jail for almost, my leg, it hurt pretty badly. So they, instead of taking me to the police station, they became concerned because I was saying to them on the way to the police station, I said, listen, you guys didn't have to do all that because I have paperwork in place. I wasn't hiding because my paperwork preceded me. And they did get a little worried when I said the paperwork preceded me. And they started calling around before we left the vicinity, the place where I was at. And they said, nope, still go on and bring him in. And I heard them say, we'll find something on his ass. We'll find something on his ass. Bring him on in. But then they took me to the hospital first because they were concerned about my leg and they didn't want to get no battery charge or whatever on them, I guess so, on themselves and cover their asses. So they bandaged up my leg and they took me on into jail. So my wife started doing the paperwork and working to get me out. Now, I was in jail at that time for 10 days. And all the people that we were doing the paperwork for, they scattered like flies on shit. Wasn't nobody around to help us except now. Except for now.
When you talk about the 600.
I know. You want me to get to the 50 years, right?
Yeah. I want to get to the 600 because of everybody listening right now. Now that was funny, and we'll tell you, I don't give a damn about his feelings. I'll laugh at his ass all the time. Just thought of getting his ass over something that he probably could have avoided. So, but he got your ass kicked. I wish I knew their number so he kicked your ass again. But go ahead, tell me about the other one. Everybody get your pen edge out for this right here.
Okay, now remember, I want to tell you the sequence because all this kind of led up to that. So when I went in there to spend 10 days in jail, then when the judge let me out, he said, "But you got to do this deposition." I said, "Okay, I'll go ahead and do it because y'all done whipped my ass and everything, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the deposition." So we did the deposition, and about 6-7 months later, the police came to my door again. Well, he was a detective. And it was interesting because they had an arrest warrant for me for 5 counts of writing, bills of exchanges, carrying 10 years each. So a total of 50 years. So my wife, being the character she was, said, well, he's not here right now. Of course, I was there in the bedroom, but they said, he's not here right now. Is there anything I can do to help you? And then, they were real cordial. And they said, we got a warrant for his arrest. He's been writing bills of exchanges, and we want to, talk to him about it, but let him know that there's a warrant for his arrest. So we didn't go into hiding this time. I decided to go on in. So we went down there. They did a walkthrough. I guess y'all know what a walkthrough is. They did a walkthrough, and I got a bail bondsman at the time because we said these bills of exchange might not work any longer because they're coming after me to arrest me. 50 years. Now, I tried to get a couple of attorneys, but I interviewed quite a few attorneys, about 4 or 5, and I said, I'm just going to have to go on in there and represent myself because most of these guys don't know anything. And what I had read was the Uniform Commercial Code by Howard Freeman and understood this called this secret agreement with the attorneys that they had during the Roosevelt administration where the attorneys really couldn't deal with the UCC in open courts and admonish or recognize the bankruptcy of the United States House Joint Resolution 192. And so each attorney that I talked to, I brought this up, and they were reluctant to take the case. So we were kind of a mutual agreement. You know, they were reluctant to take the case, and I was reluctant on having it. So they tried to force an attorney on me during the so-called court appearances. And, of course, I refused, but then they kind of got real adamant about it. So I said, okay, I'm going to take an attorney. But I brought the attorney up there, and I said, now, here's the attorney like y'all want. I'm going to do the talking. I'm going to leave him here as a figurehead since y'all want me to have an attorney. But he ain't going to say nothing. I'm going to do the talking. And so, you know, went back and forth, boom, boom, boom. And I think that lasted for over 6-7 months. Finally, now remember, folks, I was facing 50 years in prison. Had a family. My wife was really stressed out. Children being homeschooled. So my family was in disarray at this time. So I decided to go on and back down, folks, okay? You can call it cowardly, or whatever you want to call it. But I decided to back down. But I wasn't taking no 50 years. I was going to tell you, I'm just reassuring y'all that. So what the judge came back with was a $450 fine and 18 months probation, which carried a felony charge, okay? So I'm a felon to this day for that incident, or those series of incidents. But I did go ahead and accept the $450 fine and 18 months probation because my wife, we had a family meeting and said, no, Dad, we need you home. We don't want to, we tired of dealing with this. Resources were getting low and everything. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and bow down to what they want. But, you know, we considered it a victory because it was just a $450 fine and 18 months probation as opposed to 50 years. Now, y'all can go ahead and laugh and joke about it all you want, but
I was laughing on mute, but yeah, it's funny.
And let me tell you something. Let me tell you one other thing, though, Greg.
Yeah, I'm not laughing because brother led a fight another day. People got to understand that. Some people, I mean, I may not have. We got to look at it like this too, though. I mean, you facing 50 years and a $450 fine and a short amount of probation. That proves that hell, you probably was doing it right. They just wanted you to shut the fuck up and get out the way. And sometimes we just have to do that. You know what I mean? I don't recommend that, but to each his own. You have to listen. You have to choose your battles. It's some people coming in 2 weeks learning this information, and now they facing 40 years. You better decide what the hell you're going to do, because probably the individual that you paid all that money for that paperwork ain't going to come help you. You know what I mean?
And I'm going to say this too, True. You know, the thing that gets me that I could appreciate about Will, the first thing that got everybody's attention, it had Will said, and they never said, hey, I got 100 and what was it, 160? What was it, Will? You said?
What's that?
For the other part. When you got the money, a lot of people would have just told that part of the story to sell that part of the story. Did you get to that? The 160?
Right. No, you can even ask John Mee, because John Mee was the first one that I met that's in a group setting here. John Mee can tell you exactly what I told him about, that. I shared with him that experience. And I'm telling you, I wasn't doing it to discourage you. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because somebody clicked in on the other line. I thought it was an emergency call. But you tell them about the 169,000 or whatever it was?
Okay, that's further down the line. But okay, yeah. Okay, so that's
on the OID.
Yeah, that's on OID.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
I figured that.
Now, hey, True. Now, what happened there was when after I guess you could say I got my ass whipped in the courts with the bills of exchanges and got it adjudicated. Greg can explain that, but True, too. I decided, well, okay, let me hold out on these bills of exchange. We tried a few other things, bonds, ACBs, and things of that nature. But come 2007, 2008, we decided, my friend and wife, we now remember, I took it like a sabbatical or whatever. We were studying and trying to figure out what happened all along. And then one of my other friends came forward and said, hey, listen, I got this thing called the OID, and it's totally unrelated to UCC. in a sense where you don't have to become a security party and all like that to do it. So we were reluctant, but my wife was adamant. Because we were drowning in debt at that time. Business slowed down. A lot of people had ran from us because we kind of like a pariah in the community because people saying, "Oh, these niggas are crazy. We ain't gonna deal with these niggas no more." So resources were being strapped. My wife ran the numbers and said, "Listen, we can get about 168,000 right now, and then we can get another 440,000 in a couple of months." And I said, "Okay, honey, this thing ain't gonna work. I done got my ass beat up in these courts so much." I said, "All right, I mean, if you for sure, we'll go ahead and give it a shot, but I'm reluctant."
Okay, for sure.
Yeah. And so we, hey, now true, hold on. So we did the paperwork, and this was in September 2007, and they said on October the 15th, I think it was, we do 169,000. That's what 169,000. So y'all know us. I mean, we were dead broke at this time. Not dead broke, but money had slowed down. So come midnight on October the 15th, I told my wife, "Okay, let's check that in. Check the bank account. What's going on?" Midnight, nothing there. 1 o'clock, nothing there. 2 o'clock, nothing there. And then about 2:30, we decided to check again, and our account showed 169,000. Now we did all the wrong shit with that, but nevertheless, we had 169,000 on our account from OID. Okay, now we started calling nigga buying. Okay. We started nigga buying. What we should have done and what we done are two different things, okay? And I'll tell you what we did, and I'm gonna tell you what we should have done, okay? And then y'all can expound on it because now it's a lot further down the line. So y'all can just share with me y'all's strategy on it. But we started doing improvements to the house. Buying cars for us and the children and everything, getting rid of all our debt through this means instead of the bill of exchange. And we said that the reason why we did it this way is because we knew the 440,000 was coming in January. Because when we got that money, and we said, "Damn, okay, the rest of the money's going to come." Well, we had to tell people, "Oh, okay, cool." I got you, Greg. I got you. Anyway. All right, okay, Greg. All right, Greg. All right, I got you. Anyway, we would say we'll just go ahead and just pay the house off and deal with, improvements to the house and everything right now. And then when the 440,000 comes, we'll do it. But what the mindset that we came up with was that if we're going to show anybody anything else, we're going to show them that the OID works, and we're not going to charge them up front for the paperwork. We're just going to ask for a percentage at the end. So nevertheless, a line started at our door again. All these people that ran from us are now back, coming for the OID. And so we started doing that, but we didn't charge them any money for it up front. We learned our lesson from back in the day. We said, once you get your OID, we want this percentage. So we had it set up. We had a couple of million coming, okay, folks, plus our 440,000 from the IRS. Now, this was from October of 2007 to January of 2008. So prior to that, or December of 2008, we had left about 12,000 in the bank, and the IRS intercepted that. Now, what we should have done was taken all that money out and formed a trust and, did something more, a lot more protected. But my wife...
They didn't intercept it. They seized that
yeah. So, but we my wife was the one that was adamant about leaving it in there because she said, "Look we doing everything above board. Ain't nothing. This ain't no UC related. They can't touch this money." And I told her, "No, let's get this money out." Well, before she could get that money out, they had what I call intercepted. What do you call it, Greg?
Seized.
True. They seized it. True.
Okay,
so they seized it.
Okay,
so confiscated.
Confiscated. I like that word better. But they had confiscated the funds, and so we were distraught. So we started telling people, listen, don't expect this money in January now, we were distraught. I mean, because we was on our way. I'm telling you. If we ain't got that, I wouldn't be on this phone with y'all right now. If we ain't got that money like we were supposed to. And as I've been just sharing with you all the experiences. But when they hit the count, then we immediately got on the phone to our people and said, okay, listen, they're coming down on us. Be prepared. They may come to question you. Don't expect your return either. Or, do some things to safeguard in case you do get it. Don't do what we did. So anyway, let me just stop there, folks, and let y'all chime in because we didn't get any more fun.
8420-347-83-8420. If you have a question, please press the number 1.
Or comment.
Or comment. And the beautiful part about it is all this is documented. And I appreciate Will and True, I'm sure you can as well, for telling me this up front. He's like, man, they coming downhill, bro. And I'm like, okay, I can and I just changed the show description to William Crowley gives a testimony about his experiences with the OID, UCC, and other trials and tribulations. And what what I'm thinking about in retrospect, when I didn't know that other part about what you and your wife are doing. And True, you can chime in on this, and anybody else, press number 1. Don't sit back there idly. What would your life be like had you taken some percentage of money up front in exchange?
Well, my life
because you would have taken, say, $16,000 out of somebody's house if they would have had that kind of money to give for an OID without taking the money up front. You said you decided not to take the money up front. Can you imagine how angry a lot of people would be with you had you? In this, they could have gotten you for potentially, right? Had you taken the money?
You know how he was talking about, well, baby, we ain't gonna go and hide this time. We just gonna go in and deal with it. If he took that money up front, he'd have had to go and hide. Because motherfuckers was going to come looking for him.
That becomes a scam, though. That can become a scam or a fraud. And for that, they could have hidden you. They could have put you in jail.
Right. And the mindset that we had all along. Yeah. And make sure your people, I want to reiterate, the mindset that we had all along to look here, we were doing everything above board, total exposure and everything, okay? Let people look at it. We're not doing anything conniving or deceptive. Matter of fact, the system is what's doing things conniving and deceptive. We're trying to bring it to the forefront and say, listen, we need to deal with this in a different way. So use integrity when you're doing this, okay? And we're not out here to trying to take advantage of anybody. As a matter of fact, we were a little bit, we could have been even more honest. I was going to say we're a little bit too honest, but we weren't. We were probably, there's nothing I would have done different. Well, there was a lot I would have done different, actually, but in dealing with the people, we dealt with the people in an upright position. They weren't running from us because we were scamming them. They were running from us because the authorities were coming down on us, and they were scared to death that they were going to get, dealt with as well.
Right, but I also see, you seem to be a pretty stand-up guy because, when you seen the heat was coming down, you gave motherfuckers a warning. There's a lot of people out here that so-called teachers, gurus, I don't care what you call them, and it's like they're not gonna tell you a damn thing. And I just give much, I got much respect for you for doing that because it's like, okay, we thought this, but look, I think some shit great happened. Let me tell y'all, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. That's what one's supposed to do. You stuck yourself out on the line, you and your wife, and your family in order to try to make things happen, not only for yourself, but for others, whether you got paid for it or not. You know what I mean? But when what proves that you wasn't on no bullshit, and just trying to scam people or overnight get rich scheme or something was when you felt like shit wasn't right, you warned the people that you were allegedly getting money from or supposed to be getting money from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't do this, don't do that, expect this, suspect that, don't cash this, don't cash that. If you do it, don't do it this way, do it that way. And that's what's supposed to happen because, a lot of us, within this journey, it's trial and error. It's trial and error. If you keep it straight 100, we're going to win and we're going to lose. I don't care about losing, and I do care about losing, but I don't because I want. A lot of times you lose, you know damn well you're supposed to win, but I don't care about losing in regards to the people in the community out here and showing them that, because you can't win them all. We're going to win some and we're going to lose some. And hell, on this journey, we have to get out and try shit that no one else has tried. And it may cause us a loss in order to come back and show you why we lost, so you can go back and correct our mistakes. That's why I do things the way that I do, So,
right.
I mean, I love what I've been hearing from you, brother, regardless of the situation. It's just like, we got...
Yeah, I'm not offended at y'all. I laugh because, I'm not offended that you laugh. I laugh at it too, man. But it was, I'm really, if you can ask Greg or John Me, wherever I go around here, I'm hugely respected because people know, look, I'm still doing what I was doing back then.
And you put skin in the game, and you stand up, and you tell people what went on. And that's what I appreciate. Some people think it's funny, they came and snatched my ass up out of my house. I used to get pulled all the time and go to jail for driving out of license.
Right.
And if you think about it in retrospect, that should sound insane.
But Greg, though, check this out, though, Greg. Man, they jumped over my damn fence and cut my fucking water off, and then cut a hole in the middle of the street and shut the property off from the water. Did I not show that to the people on Facebook? That shit was embarrassing. On YouTube, that shit was embarrassing. But that's whether you right or wrong, we dealing with the fucking beast. I don't care if you right or wrong. They're gonna make moves if they feel like this brother, you know what I mean, was sharing with people, was helping other people, do it as well. Same thing I was doing. And you know what I mean? I'm posting this shit on motherfucking on the live wire, as my buddy calls it. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's embarrassing, but not to me. It wasn't embarrassing in the sense of, it wasn't embarrassing because I knew what I was doing was right. It was like it's a fight you fight, and you win some, you lose some. But at the same time, I showed people, and I told them, I'm like, look, I tell you what, I didn't pay their ass for like light company, water company. At that point, I didn't have gas because I had all electric. I'm HVAC, so I wired up all my shit all electric. So I didn't pay them for 4, 5, 6, 7 months. But when them motherfuckers decided to come, it was like, okay, you owe us $2,000. You owe us $1,000. You owe us, and if you didn't have it at that point, you got shut the fuck off. It's just what it was. But the difference between me and like this brother here, I showed people. You know what I mean? Okay, I wrote the shit off. I can show you where it discharged, but then these motherfuckers want to play these games, and this is what happens. What I'm telling you, keep doing that. I choose to do it now as an extortion payment. Send them a money order, label it extortion payment. You see what I'm saying? When you're dealing with utilities specifically, because you got kids in the damn house. If they come and cut your shit off and they done left you on for a whole year, you do the math. Do you have those type of funds set aside to go give them that plus the reconnection fee and so on and so forth? So, and I'm getting into some shit that I'm going to be putting out here a little bit later. I don't want to go too much far into it. But it's like I'm showing people trial and error just like this, brother. It's like, man, you win some, you lose some. And a lot of times, even if you do things 100% right, you'll still lose.
They gonna come.
You're only losing because of who you fighting.
And let me say this true. Let me say this true. Now, I that's why I really admire you guys when you and Greg and them put everything on video and YouTube and all like that. I wasn't that savvy back then, but I've got pretty much all my paperwork. So if anybody wants to see my paperwork or whatever, it's not as good as the Facebook, the YouTube footage that you all have, but nevertheless, I do have my paperwork of all the stuff that I've been involved in. If anybody ever wants to take a look at whatever, give me a
I'll vouch for it. I wouldn't bring you into my, people who know how I feel about my platform, and because it's not just my platform, it belongs to the Man Mindset, the manmindset.com. I wouldn't bring on anybody who I didn't think was credible and who hadn't fought the fight, which is why I respect brother True. We may have a different approach. I think our approach is kind of the same, actually. I think because the information we share is uniquely correlative, and as well as with a lot of people.
You just a little bit more calm. Me, you just a little bit more calm. Me, I will punch a motherfucker in the face. You know what I mean? Listen, these my rights. Your motherfucking ass ain't gonna sit. And you sit up here and you'll just come back with them with their shit peacefully. I wish I could do that. But I can't, you know what I mean? I'm like, look, motherfucker, I told you twice not to smack me, and you gonna smack me a third time? All right, here's what you gonna get.
Well, it's been learned because I've been in other instances where I was probably a little more volatile, and thankfully didn't get beat up like Will. But I'm gonna tell you, Will is a very respectable person. I think he kind of antagonizes people who are otherwise weak, sometimes in mind. And they don't realize it because it really, somebody saying they got 100 and some odd thousand, the first thing most people is going to do is say, man, I'm finna go get it, and I'll worry about the rest later. I'm going to be smarter than him without having an adequate defense prepared. And what you said just a second ago, True, and the people who've gone through different things within these venues, whether you want to call it court or not, let me tell you something. My heart, I get butterflies too. I get butterflies playing a game, even though I knew what I knew. But it takes that first level of contact for me to say, okay, now I'm into the game. You can prepare, but if you don't know, and I mean when you say prepare, like you think there's a script, I will stand by the fact that you will fail if that information does not come organically. I am convinced of it. Because they're going to come down with brute force, numbers. They're going to, even if they segregate you from the rest of society and bring you into the venue by yourself, they'll play the games as what do you have inside you and what is your level of thinking.
It's like I've never been in the court in regards to my cases. I've never been in court where there were other people scheduled on the docket. Now, this may be predominantly because I was doing this years before I even had a case, and I didn't know that they were watching me before they put a case on me. You know what I mean? So, they always schedule me, the only damn person on the docket for that day in that courtroom or for that AM or PM court hearing. You know what I mean? So it was like, I've helped other people here locally to where they were put last and all that shit, but I never got that opportunity because I guess I started ahead of having issues. And I want to say for those of you out there that's listening to this call today that don't have any issues going on, step your damn game up right now. If you step your game up right now before anything happens, you'll be more prepared when something does happen. And it's a better chance that you'll prevail. Don't wait till something happens. Those of you out there that listen now, that's on the call now, or that may listen in the archives or whatever, please, if you don't have an issue, don't take this information lightly. Don't take us for some kooks. Do your research and step your game up now and prepare yourself. At least you'll be able to save some money from paying these damn attorneys if you learn yourself. Regardless of what your case is about, but prepare now, and you'll be better off if something ever happens. You'll be better off or better suited to defend yourself and your legal person at that specific time. I don't deal with no bullshit. I deal with the rules of the game because I know they don't abide by the rules of the game. So that's all I got to do is just point out how they don't abide by the procedures that they're supposed to in order to have a valid case against me. That's really the first and foremost thing we should be doing because they don't know what the hell going on. So, just prepare yourself in advance. So for everybody out there that does not have anything, no cases going on, and you listening to these shows and things like that, don't sit back and just listen and like, oh, that's some good information and don't use it. Use it. Do your research because your day will come. Or your day may and will come. May or will come, however you say it. So, and it's better to be prepared than not prepared.
All day.
And
I'm going to tell people, I'll tell y'all this as well. it may sound like sometimes even in being kind of jovial with the situation, or as you say, true, I'm a little more calm, or and then Will say I sound like an attorney. I don't. I think until maybe tonight or even Tuesday, people don't realize the kind of intensity that you have to take, that I have to get to, or everybody has to get to a level of intensity, so that you have no doubt that you've already picked your side. You're either on your side or you're on the side of the opposition.
Yeah.
You better pick that side right now. And you can never switch. Otherwise, you'll always fail because you'll be double-minded. There's something in the Bible about that, or in those books of religious books about that too, right, Will? Can't be double-minded and win. You cannot.
Yeah,
and let me
don't wait to be threatened until you pick a side, because you're going to pick the wrong side when you threaten.
Yeah, right. Don't wait to be under threatened duress, or what do you call it, under threatened duress. Yeah. But let me just. There was one other incident too that I wanted to just share, and then I'll let y'all kind of diagnose it or whatever, or I'll give y'all the position on it. But after that, now just to show you how persistent I was, I started a group after that in 2000, about middle of 2008. I started my own group, a think tank, whatever you want to call it. But we weren't a group just sitting around thinking. We were out there doing things and bringing it back to the group to say, here's what we accomplished this week, and with the taxes, with adverse possession, with maritime liens, with bills of exchange, with bonds, with acceptance of value, etc. So we had a group of a leaderless group. So we had a group where everybody was a leader. I was the host of that meeting, but we had, that group was, like I said, it was about 40 to 60 people every Wednesday night right here in Florida. And we had people coming from all over Florida. It was a great meeting. I still got some footage of that. Now I've got some. They were recording me on these venues, so I have some recordings of this stuff. But it was a great group meeting, okay? But nevertheless, about a year and a half later, 2009, early 2010, we had kind of a low-level raid. Now I'm not just telling you that to scare you, but once again, I guess I'm a targeted man because they know they're watching me now because they know probably what I'm kind of capable of. So what happened was they had like a little low-level raid because most people in the group, most people that attended my thing, we were homeschoolers, and all of us were doing something out there to expose the corruptness in what we call this system. Now, after that raid, Dan Lieberman, and y'all can go on and look at me on Nightline. I was on there with Dan Lieberman and Diane Sawyer, for those who know they are. They came down and interviewed my group and interviewed me as the host or the commentator for the group. And I explained what the group's strategy was and philosophy, and didn't back down. I told them all my experience, what I had been through, and I thought I was wrongfully treated, and that the reason why I keep doing this is because I know that I'm not doing anything wrong. I know that they are wrong, but I'm not going to give up. You may beat me down in one area or one category, but I'm going to keep coming back. Now I'm back in this venue with you all, so I haven't given up, folks, because this is a way of life for me. But I want to strongly encourage everybody on this phone, like True or either Greg has said, if you just in it for monetary gain, then you probably should go on and get out now, okay? Be in it for the right reason. That is, I want to genuinely help people, and the way I found I can help people now is to share with them my story and to tell them, look here, here's the good of it, here's the not so good of it, okay? Do this stuff. I'm sure that people's having success nowadays. Just protect yourself, like True was just saying. Make sure that you protect yourself and learn off the experiences of the past. So I'm done now. Thanks a lot, Greg.
And no problem. No, I thank you, and I'm sure True would say the same. Listen, man, this all that glitters is gold idea doesn't work, and this is a little deviation for what School University generally is in the second part, but I just think people need to get it raw and uncut. I think that the allure is not the right way to go about it. I'm not saying that there's nothing legitimate about it, but if you don't build your defense, your offense is never going to be any good.
Right.
Defense is always built first.
let me say this, brother Doss, because he just brought back up something I wanted to say earlier when he was talking about the monetary gain earlier. If you're in it for monetary gain, your ass is grass, right? I'm gonna tell you. You may last a few years. You may be like the dope boy. You may ball for 10, 12 years. In the 13th year, your ass got life. You need to think about that. You know what I mean? And far as the monetary gain, though, what I actually wanted to say in regards to that, because it brought something up, is like, first of all, how can you preach and teach that there is no money, but then you turn around and you're trying to con the government into getting these checks back, and that falls into that OID shit, whether it be true or not. You see what I'm saying? Right. The thing of it is, if we're preaching there is no money, how were we doing forms and shit, getting big checks back, cashing them, getting money or Federal Reserve notes and going spending them to get shit? That's where they hit you at, because you're trying to profit. Now, I guarantee you, I'm almost 99.99% sure if someone would have, if I receive $100,000 in OID money back, do the OID process, get $100,000 back, and I take and I give it back to them to set off some debt or to do, and people may say, well, why would you want to do that? That just defeats the purpose. Well, it's testing out the system as well, because I'm not really, I want to have nice things and all that, but also I want to get nice things and then 2-3 years later go to prison for 10, 15 years just for getting those nice things. So I'd rather not deal with the nice things and get them when they come about. So I don't give a fuck what somebody think about me. Excuse my language. I don't care what nobody thinks about me. I just care what I think about myself and my family thinks about me. You see what I'm saying? So if there is no money,
you don't want to put your family in that kind of situation. You just can't.
Right.
Not on a hope and a prayer.
Right. But my point was is let me get to that. My point was is if we preaching there is no money, then why would we fill out forms and try to get back some funds from the IRS? My thing is like this. One day, if everything is on the up and up, I'll just open the mailbox and they'll say, true free man, we owe you this, we conned you, you done beat us, here go your $110 million. Or whatever the hell it is. I'm not going to fill out no forms and force them to give me some money back so that they can come after me and then probably charge me with getting that. You see what I'm saying? Because, first of all, there is no money any damn way. You see what I'm saying? And the Federal Reserve notes are an obligation of the United States. I did a video on that. You see what I'm saying? People are also not paying attention on that. We ain't even supposed to be dealing with these damn Federal Reserve notes. You know, so if you in it for the money, I suggest you pick something else. If you in it for your freedom and hope you get some financial gain out of it later, that's a different aspect. But if you getting in it just to get some financial gain out of it, you better be leery. And if somebody is preaching that to you, you better watch out. If somebody is pushing to you, I got this and I got that, think about it. They pushing to you or trying to show you what they have, or some of the shit they don't even really have. But they're trying to do something in which would make you believe that, oh, if I follow them, I'll get this shit. Listen, do your research, fact check, and if you chasing Federal Reserve notes, you in the wrong fucking field. You ain't looking for your freedom. You're not trying to reclaim your rights. That has nothing to do with Federal Reserve notes. Once you get your rights and control of your life, liberty, property, and so on and so forth, the funds or the financial aspect of it will come. I'm not really worried about it. It's going to come. Either I'm going to die first, it's going to come, or I'm going to die first. You know what I mean?
But you're not going to quit
I'm going to fight all the while. I'm going to fight all the while. That's just what it is, man. You know, but I'm not gonna put my family in no situation based on chasing some Federal Reserve notes, because you know all money ain't good money. I learned that shit at an early age, and then to find out that there really is no lawful money in existence that is in circulation that they are actually using, it's like, wow, I really ain't got nothing to worry about. Really, I'm just trying to survive. Shit, that's just pretty much it. The rest will come. You know, and I don't know. I just look at shit a little bit different.
Well, the thing is, I tell people all the time, even my fight was never about the money. I could have been Bill Gates. I had Bill Gates kind of non-money or whatever you want to call it. And by principle, I just wasn't going to do certain things. And that maybe is probably another thing, Will, that may have helped me have the success. It wasn't about the money. I was fighting for freedom. Nobody dictates what I do. You can love your children, you love your family, but no part of that requires that you have to be submissive to anything or anybody. And I would tell everybody the same thing. But, the foundation and the basis of all this was I appreciate, let's talk about it with Will Crowley for coming into this next level thinking part two to share our testimony and to give people both sides. Because, $600,000 make people act a real funny kind of way. Okay? And will get them into a situation that they will never get out of. And let me tell you something. We had this thing going on in the local area, and we'll attest to it, called the drop situation. And people within the drop situation were getting money for a long time, for a couple of years. I mean, like True said, if you watch New Jack City, they're up and down in a couple of years. Nonetheless, now those very same people that were buying $95,000 cars and living in, sub-poverty houses are doing time in jail. The children are being raised without their, mother or father, and sometimes both, over the ability to show other people that you got money a certain kind of way or you got this fiat. And it's amazing what people will do for it. It's a sad thing, especially today, and Will, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about because you and I live in the same area. All that little money from the IRS, and the kind of time that you see people getting, it just really wasn't worth it. Being on the up and up, I think, is always the best way to do anything. So, without any further ado, if nobody has any thoughts or questions, if you want to say anything before I get out of here, press the number 1. True, do you have anything still going on this weekend, or is it next weekend?
No, it's this weekend.
Saturday.
Well, Saturday the 11th, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm doing a class on counterclaims, more specifically in regards to traffic issues. But for those who come with their thinking caps on, you'll be able to realize and decipher the fact that you can use that on multiple different issues. We have to fight back, people. If someone makes a claim against you, stop going in and trying to just rebut their claim if their claim is in fact not true or it's a frivolous claim. You have a right to counter their claim. I don't see why we're not doing it. I've helped many people successfully beat major cases just by doing a counterclaim. It's not, it's something that they weren't used to or they weren't expecting. And it's like, people don't understand that if I make a claim against Greg Doss has a right to counter my claim. And the best thing to watch is these damn shows on TV, these court judge shows, these civil cases. But it applies in civil and criminal. But we have to be on the offense versus defense. They tell you defense wins a game. That's a bold-faced damn lie. We stay on defense too much. We need to get on the offense. So I got a class going on this weekend, in regards to counterclaims. Some of you may already know how to do it or may be familiar with it, but a lot of you may not. And those of you who know True Free Man and how he breaks things down, I'm going to make sure that you over, and understand what I'm bringing to you so that you could use it to basically, take care of certain situations in your life. And that's pretty much what I got going on this weekend.
How are they going to get in touch with you?
True Free Man at Unseen, that's UNSEEN.is, or straight exposing them at gmail.com. And, I'll send you the registration link for their class if you want to get in that. If not, you can also just Google me True Freeman, and you'll find many ways to get in contact with me or watch my videos on YouTube, the ones that I still have up because I've blocked a lot. I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube. And that's pretty much what it is. You know, I'm pretty much going private, people. It's been a long journey for me. I'm damn near 7 years in. On the public scene. So, you know, and I'm tired of the mess. I'm tired of the guru, so I'm pretty much going private. So Google True Freeman or email me truefreeman@unseen.is or straightexposingthem@gmail.com or check my website out, which is straightexposingthem@gmail.com, which if you Google True Freeman, you will find the majority of these things. And that's pretty much it, Brother Doss.
We'll tell everybody who you are and what you have going on. If they don't already know, I'm sure by now they should have a pretty good relationship with you and should be able to appreciate your candidness and your honesty about what you've gone through. But tell everybody what else you actually do.
Well, you know, I do credit restoration assistance, nationwide service. So look at my Facebook page. Eric Smith was kind enough to expand my presence on the social network, specifically through YouTube, Google, and Facebook. That's at Bad Credit History Repaired. And you should see me come up, take a look at the page, like it. The more likes I have, you know, the more exposure I get. So like that page. You can give me a call on anything I talked about this evening. If you want to see any paperwork from it, I'll be more than happy to share that with you. As long as you do what you're supposed to do with it. Don't take it and do anything negative with it, I guess I could say. But 727-798-3092. And once again, I thank Greg for allowing me to come on the show and share with you some of my experiences. Hopefully they'll be useful for you in your journey. And don't make your journey a short one. Carry this on out for make it a way of life. And True, thanks a lot for your input as well.
No doubt, man. I appreciate it. And listen, it takes a lot for a person to, you know, be so forward with their life, especially when the experience would be considered to be not necessarily so joyous or what have you. And you know, although I joke, well, I like to consider him a friend, and I thank him for gracing, you know, my audience with his presence and with his story. If you need any information from me, we all know I do some coaching. I'm pretty difficult within the classroom, but I think it's only necessary in order to help people best effect themselves if they are confronted with a situation. You can go to gregdoss.com. You see the services I provide. If you wish to donate, you can, and if you wanted a service, you can see those as well in the prices. I enjoy what I do when it comes to these things, but I enjoy more seeing people get a remedy and people breaking those shackles that bind them. Even those shackles are psychological. And listen, people, as always, imparting, as I say on all of my shows, sometimes it's not about right or wrong. More importantly, it's about clarity. And you never reach resolution if you're not willing to engage in honest dialogue, even if that dialogue is with yourself. So take time to hug the person you love and love the person you hug. On behalf of everybody at The Man Mindset, themanmindset.com and gregdoss.com, I'm DJ, actually Professor. It's clear saying peace and chicken grease. Thank you, Will, and I'm out.
What can you see, Neil? It's strange. The code is somehow different.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
Is that good for us or bad for us?
If he's an example, I ain't impressed.
He scales the mountain because he's not afraid of it. I think I just figured out a way you can be useful. Finally found me, huh, big dog? Well, what took you so long?
You can't any of the other niggas around here because he ain't like any of the other niggas around here. You got it?
What can you see new? It's strange.